Chapter 543. Like a heavy punch, this grievous news smashed onto Qin Wushuang's chest. If he wasn't wearing a mask, his expression would have been as ugly as it could be right now. The martial artists of the Stargaze Palace had not been spared. Although the core disciples and higher-ups of the Stargaze Palace had retreated ahead of time. However, there were still quite a number of people from the same sect who stayed behind. As he watched Luo Yun's beaming with joy, Qin Wushuang's heart was bleeding. If his rationality had not told him to stay calm, most likely he would have made a move already. He clenched his fists tightly inside his sleeve. He could not control the anger inside his heart and only wanted to start a massacre now. Luo Tongtian. In the end, you still made a move against the human countries. If that's the case, I, Qin Wushuang, will not stop until I make your heavenly Luo Daoist sect disappear. A wave of hatred that had nowhere to vent burned madly inside Qin Wushuang's heart. The Stargaze Palace was the place where Qin Wushuang had grown up. His roots were there. Although he did not have any feelings for his fellow disciples and had never interacted with them, regardless, they were like a family living under the same roof since they were in the same sect. They shared honor and disgrace. Qin Wushuang felt as if a knife was twisting in his heart as he tried hard to suppress the anger inside. All along, his family and the Stargaze Palace had been Qin Wushuang's two reverse scales. To Qin Wushuang, he could not forgive anyone who violated any of these 2 points. Now, he had heard such earth-shattering news brought by Luo Yun. Qin Wushuang only felt a wave of blood rolling in his entire body. To Luo Yang, this news could be considered a pleasant surprise. He asked emotionally, "Luo Yun, where did you get the news?" Luo Yun said, "When I was at the main palace, I heard a few of the Shakyamuni's trusted disciples talking about it." Instantly, the joy that filled Luo Yang's heart disappeared like smoke. Although the Shakyamuni held a higher position than him, an elder, he had only learned about it now when his disciples were talking about it. It was apparent how high his position was in the eyes of the higher-ups. "Uncle, what's wrong?" Luo Yun saw that Luo Yang's complexion didn't look too good and couldn't help but ask. Luo Yang shook his head. "Nothing. Among the martial artists in the Stargaze Palace, are there any leaders? It seems like the leaders have all retreated. The ones left behind are all ordinary disciples. There were a few thousand of them. Haha, what a pity that I wasn't able to participate in such a grand event." Clearly, Luo Yun was still holding a grudge over the humiliation he had suffered at the Stargaze Palace. "The leader hasn't been executed yet. What's the use of killing a few ant-like disciples?" Luo Yang sneered. "That's still satisfying. Eldest uncle, don't forget how the Stargaze dealt with the 9 Palace faction. Brother Tianxi was killed by the Stargaze Palace." Luo Yang said sinisterly, "The chief evil is not dead. No matter how many ants I kill, it will not be enough to quench the hatred in my heart." Luo Yun smiled and said, "Uncle, since the head Dao warrior has already laid his hands on the human nations, why don't we go to the Heavenly Prince Mansion and have another massacre? What do you think?" Luo Yang said coldly, "It was Qin Wushuang who had killed Luo Ting. If the head Dao warrior wants revenge, he should have made a move on Qin Wushuang's people. Humph, most of the disciples do not have much feelings. It's nothing much to kill them. Could it be that Qin Wushuang would feel heartache? Yes, he would not feel heartache if the ones who died were not his relatives." Luo Yun added fuel to the fire. Landlords was stood on the spot awkwardly and listened to their frank and assured conversation. Bao Bao and Lone also looked at Qin Wushuang from time to time. Apparently, they were also observing Qin Wushuang's reaction and waiting for Qin Wushuang's orders. In the end, Qin Wushuang's rationality won over his impulse. After returning to his residence, Qin Wushuang sat on the stool as if he had lost his soul. He pressed his 5 fingers on the table and left a deep handprint. "Boss, are you all right?" Bao Bao asked carefully. "Boss, don't be too sad. The heavenly Luo Taoist sect had violated the agreement and made a move on the human countries. It means that Luo Tongtian has lost his cool. It's the best chance for us to deal with the heavenly Luo Taoist sect. Gone, all those disciples are gone. Qin Wushuang mumbled. Up to this point, he could not face this news calmly. All of this happened too suddenly. Boss, it's useless to feel sad now. Yes, boss, the most important thing now is to pull yourself together. Qin Wushuang had always been strong. Even during the most difficult times, he had never felt so depressed. Instantly, a few thousand of his fellow disciples had been slaughtered. Without a doubt, the Stargaze Palace would be devastated. Most likely, such a gigantic sect would suffer a great loss. Qin Wushuang felt that although he had not killed those disciples, regardless, it was related to him. However, he had no other choice. There was no way to make up for it. Compared to the heavenly Luo Taoist sect, the Stargaze Palace was too tiny. If the heavenly Luo Taoist sect wanted to deal with the Stargaze Palace, they could make a move at any time. Even without the factor of Qin Wushuang, the fate of the Stargaze Palace was clear after they had offended the heavenly Luo Taoist sect. One could even say that without Qin Wushuang, the Stargaze Palace would not have survived the calamity of the Nine Palaces invasion. However, what about it? In the end, Qin Wushuang could not convince himself and could not let go. On the contrary, the anger inside his heart had become even more intense. Tonight, make a move. Qin Wushuang clenched his fists tightly. Initially, Bao Bao and Lone were warlike people. However, at this moment, they could not help but ask, "Boss, are you sure you are ready?" They were also worried that Qin Wushuang would make a mistake because he could not control his anger. Qin Wushuang took a deep breath. "Don't worry, I have never been calmer than now. Declaring war on the heavenly Luo Taoist sect will start with Luo Yang. Bao Bao, Mole, as usual, you will be in charge of attracting the elite warriors next to Luo Yang. Jade Hair, get ready to perform the divine venomous insect technique. Lone will be in charge of cleaning up the miscellaneous fish that had intruded. Success or failure will depend on tonight." "Boss, it's not that I have a crow's mouth." Suddenly, Bao Bao said, what if we fail tonight?" A determined look emerged from Qin Wushuang's eyes. "We will not fail." Bao Bao mumbled, "What if something unexpected happens?" This was a test of Qin Wushuang's decision on the spot. After thinking for a while, in the end, Qin Wushuang said, "In case something unexpected happens, retreat immediately and do not linger in battle." When he said these words, inwardly, Qin Wushuang felt extremely sorrowful. However, he knew that this was his only choice. If something unexpected happened and they did not retreat, what awaited them would be falling into a heavy encirclement and a bitter battle to the death. He must avenge the Stargaze Palace for slaughtering his sect. However, to take revenge, he must survive. Only by surviving would he have the capital to carry out his revenge. This was a simple principle. Qin Wushuang called Landlord Zhuo before him and instructed him with his spiritual perception. Landlord Zhuo could not help but nod. As the night gradually darkened, the servants were busy in the backyard of the Sea of Bamboo courtyard. Luo Yang was in a great mood as he invited Landlord Zhuo for a drink. Of course, Qin Wushuang would not miss this opportunity. This backyard was rather quiet and the best place to make his move. When the servants had all retreated, Luo Yang called out, "Junior Zhuo, please." Landlord Zhuo said with a smile, "Elder Luo Yang, I am overwhelmed by your favor for holding 3 banquets a day. For this kindness, I must repay it." "Not at all, I also hit it off with you at first sight. Come, let's drink." After drinking a cup, Landlord Zhuo stood up to refill Luo Yang's cup. However, one of Luo Yang's servants walked up and snatched the task from Landlord Zhuo's hands. "Mr. Zhuo, for such a small matter, let us do it." Landlord Zhuo laughed and let go of the handle of the wine pot. The valet filled both cups with water. Luo Yang said with a smile, Junior Zwa, today I am in a great mood. The Stargaze Palace has always been the source of my hatred. Although I did not get rid of them completely this time, at least some of my hatred had been reduced. For this joyous occasion, let's drink. After drinking a few cups, suddenly, everyone at the scene felt a wave of slight movement from the ground. This movement shook the cups on the table and caused them to make a clanging sound. What's going on? Luo Yang was rather panicked. Instead, he spread out his spiritual perception to search for the cause. At this moment, the wine pot on the table suddenly tilted and fell towards Landlord Zwa. One of Landlord Zwa's servants had sharp eyes and nimble hands as he caught the wine pot before it fell to the ground. He straightened his back from under the table and put the pot back to its original place. Landlord Zwa said with surprise, "Could it be an earthquake?" Suddenly, a strange light flashed across Luo Yang's eyes as he looked to the east. "Go, there is movement in that direction, let's go check it out." And the north. Next to Luo Yang, there were 4 personal servants. 2 of them had left and the other 2 stayed behind to follow Luo Yang closely. At this moment, the shaking gradually weakened and finally calmed down. Landlords was said as if relieved of a heavy burden. It finally stopped. Elder Luo Yang, could it be an invasion by foreign enemies? Luo Yang laughed. Invasion by foreign enemies? If it's foreign enemies, why would they come to this sea of bamboo courtyard? Most likely, it's the spiritual beasts that came down from the Wolf Ivory Peak. Seeing Luo Yang's unconcerned expression, the matter of the spiritual beasts coming down from the Wolf Ivory Peak must have happened frequently. Come, let's drink and calm down. Landlords will laughed and picked up that wine pot again. This time, although Luo Yang's 2 servants wanted to help, they were not as fast as Landlord Zwa. They did not say anything when they saw Landlord Zwa had already filled the cup. Cheers. After drinking 3 cups in a row, Landlord Zwa could not help but ask, "Elder Luo Yang, why are the 2 friends that went after them not back yet? Should I send someone to take a look?" Luo Yang did not mind. "No need, they won't get lost. Don't look at how big this heavenly sun mountain is, in fact, it's much safer than the outside. Whoever dares to barge in without eyes would be digging their own grave." While he spoke, suddenly, Luo Yang's blood surged and his expression changed slightly. He looked back and saw that his 2 servants had suddenly fallen to the ground without him noticing. He immediately realized that something was wrong. Just when he was about to stand up, he suddenly felt that his sea of spiritual qi was empty and he could not summon any spiritual qi. Landlord Zwa still had a calm smile on his face. However, in Luo Yang's eyes, this smiling face appeared extremely malevolent. One moment it was clear and the next moment it was blurry. "You!" Luo Yang pointed at Landlord Zwa. Without even drawing blood, this Luo Yang had already fallen. Qin Wushuang made a hand gesture and instructed, "Precious pig, mystical horse, go help them. Don't make a big commotion and take care of those 2 servants that went after them. Then, return to the room and don't move anything. Just make it look like the banquet has ended. Yes. Bring him back to the room." With Luo Yang in his hands, Qin Wushuang had become much calmer. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please log on to www.chidian.com. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 544. Initially, the tremors and the dropping of the wine pot were all tricks planned by Qin Wushuang. The instant the wine pot dropped to the ground, Qin Wushuang blew into the pot with one breath and blew the prepared poison into the pot. And this poison was specially refined by the Jade Rabbit. It could prevent people from using the spiritual qi in their dantian. Naturally, Landlord Zwa was fine because he had already consumed the antidote. However, Luo Yang was not an immortal. Of course, he could not predict such a calamity. Currently, Moon Palace Jade Rabbit was extremely proficient in the divine venomous insect technique. Since Luo Yang was restrained by them, he had no room to resist. When Luo Yang woke up, his spiritual perception was completely controlled by Qin Wushuang. The divine venomous insect inside his body had completely controlled his spiritual perception. "It's an honor to meet you, Master." Luo Yang walked over respectfully. Qin Wushuang looked at Luo Yang coldly and said while restraining his anger, "For tonight's matter, you should know how to end it, right? Please rest assured, Master, I know what to do." Currently, Luo Yang held the highest position in the Sea of Bamboo courtyard. After Precious Pig and Mystical Horse had captured Luo Yang's two subordinates alive, all movements at the Sea of Bamboo courtyard had disappeared. Qin Wushuang was extremely satisfied with tonight's operation. After taking care of Luo Yang, it was equivalent to the perfect first step of the entire plan. A good beginning was half the battle. After taking care of Luo Yang, Qin Wushuang's head had also become much clearer. Although that surge of hatred and anger still burned fiercely in his chest, at this moment, Qin Wushuang was not as uncertain as before. He knew that the execution of the entire plan was becoming more and more assured. Early next morning, Luo Yang brought his 4 trusted subordinates to find Qin Wushuang. Qin Wushuang did not want to drag it out any longer to prevent any unexpected events from happening. "Master, we can depart now," Luo Yang said. According to the plan, the 5 sealed spiritual beasts would return to the sealed scroll. Bao Bao and Lone would follow Qin Wushuang. Landlord Zhuo and his 3 other subordinates would stay at the Sea of Bamboo courtyard to keep in touch. Luo Yang only brought 2 of his 4 attendants. Plus Qin Wushuang, Bao Bao, and Lone, there were 6 people in the group. After all, this was the territory of the heavenly Luo Daoist sect. When Qin Wushuang showed the route on the map to Luo Yang was also somewhat surprised. "Master, you are going to the 9 refined mysterious wind valley? Is this place called the 9 refined mysterious wind valley?" Qin Wushuang pointed at the map and asked. Luo Yang's face was dark and uncertain. "Yes, the 9 refined mysterious wind valley." Clearly, this name caused even someone of Luo Yang's status to feel extreme fear. "We can't go to this place?" Qin Wushuang couldn't help but ask. "It's not that I can't go, but this place is too dangerous." There was a deep sense of fear in Luo Yang's voice. Obviously, this place had always been a place that he was afraid of. "Don't stutter. Look, how many layers of defense are there in the middle of this route to the 9 refined mysterious wind valley?" Qin Wushuang asked. Luo Yang did not dare to disobey as he looked at it seriously. Suddenly, he shook his head. "No, this route is not the way to the 9 refined mysterious wind valley. This should be a secret path, and it is extremely rugged." "Is it a secret path?" Qin Wushuang did not expect this. "It must be a secret path. From what I know, this is the correct way to go to the 9 refined mysterious wind valley." Luo Yang drew a few winding paths on the map. "Must we go this way?" Qin Wushuang could not help but ask. "To go to the 9 refined mysterious wind valley, you must take the correct path. Otherwise, there would be layers upon layers of traps and unimaginable risks that could appear. Most importantly, if you take the secret path, it's possible that you will be discovered by the patrolling protectors. In that case, regardless of your motive, it would be trespassing into the forbidden area." Luo Yang had analyzed the pros and cons clearly. However, he had left Qin Wushuang in a dilemma. It was reasonable for Lu Xianlu to design this secret path. It was because regardless of how powerful Lu Xianlu was, he would not have the foresight to know that the person who inherited his will would be able to perform the divine venomous insect technique and control the puppets to acquire the Elder Command Plate. In other words, Lu Xianlu had never considered entering the 9 refined mysterious wind valley through the correct path. Currently, Qin Wushuang had controlled Luo Yang. With an elder leading the way, he could take the correct path and enter openly. Of course, he could also choose to take this secret path. The advantage of taking the secret path was that he would not need to worry about being interrogated. He would not need to find excuses and would not expose any flaws. However, the disadvantages were also apparent. He would encounter traps and unexpected risks if he took the secret path. Most likely, he would encounter the patrolling protectors. Any one of these risks would cause his plan to collapse. Clearly, Bao Bao and Lone also knew the pros and cons of this matter. They both looked at Qin Wushuang and waited for him to make the final decision. After a moment of consideration, Qin Wushuang decided to continue playing Luo Yang's card. He asked, Luo Yang, although you are an elder of the heavenly Luo Daoist sect, since this 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley is a forbidden place, what reason do you have to enter? Luo Yang did not hide it as he said with a bitter smile, honestly, I cannot find a convincing reason. Then how many layers of defense are there if we take the correct path? I know that there are 4 checkpoints. These are all the checkpoints on the surface. I don't know how many hidden cards there are. Qin Wushuang muttered to himself irresolutely. According to Luo Yang's words, it would not be easy to enter this 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley. Regardless of whether it was on the surface or in the dark, it would not be easy for him to enter with ease despite being an elder. After a moment of thinking, he asked, Luo Yang, in the end, what kind of place is this 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley? There must be some reason why the heavenly Luo Daoist sect set it as a forbidden place, right? Luo Yang said, there are many rumors about the 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley. However, the most accurate rumor should be about that subduing devil stone tablet. Inside the 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley, there is a subduing devil stone tablet. It is rumored that it seals 2 divine Dao demonic spirits that wreaked havoc at the heavenly Sun Mountain. Divine Dao demonic spirits? Qin Wushuang found it incredibly inconceivable. How could elite warriors of the divine Dao be sealed inside the heavenly Sun Mountain? Could it be that the heavenly Luo Daoist sect once had elite warriors of the divine Dao? Yes, there is a subduing devil stone tablet. However, regarding what kind of demonic spirits are sealed inside, I am afraid only the head Dao warriors would know. For others, even the second Dao warrior would not know. Luo Yang kept sighing with emotion. Besides the subduing devil stone tablet, what other rumors are there? It is rumored that the 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley is the immemorial divine battlefield. Therefore, inside the 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley, the spiritual qi is abundant. At the same time, it is also extremely dangerous. In the heavenly Luo Daoist sect, each core disciple would have at least one chance to enter the 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley to train. This time period is 3 years. Therefore, the 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley is usually not open to the public. This way, even you would find it difficult to enter, right? Luo Yang said. Not necessarily. All elders of the heavenly Luo Daoist sect are qualified to enter the 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley. However, the prerequisite is that you must have a reason to enter. A reason? A strange color flashed across Qin Wushuang's eyes. I believe you must have a reason, right? Luo Yang gritted his teeth and nodded heavily. Yes, I already thought of a reason. Tell me about it. Qin Wushuang said in a low voice. Every 3 years, the elders of the heavenly Luo Daoist sect are qualified to enter the 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley. I have not used this qualification for many years. In the heavenly Luo Daoist sect, everyone knows that I, Luo Yang, do not have a son. There is no one to pass on my legacy. What about it? I once said at the Sea of Bamboo courtyard that I will choose someone from my nephew's generation to pass on my skills. To pass on my skills, I must use a type of inheritance spiritual pill. To make the inheritance spiritual pill, I need a main material. For this material, I can only find it at the 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley. This reason was sufficient and combined with Luo Yang's own situation. Qin Wushuang laughed leisurely and asked again, Will this reason pass? Whether I can pass or not, It will depend on what the people guarding the checkpoint say. In fact, Luo Yang was aware of his current position in the heavenly Luo Taoist sect. Although he was an elder, in fact, his position was inferior to those exceptional core disciples. Or else, he would not have needed to wait for Luo Yun to inform him of the news from the human countries. This way you still do not have the confidence, Luo Yang said sadly. My 2 sons are no longer in the world. Without a powerful successor, I am destined to have no future in the heavenly Luo Taoist sect. Thus, I do not know whether those people guarding the checkpoint will give me face or not. These were the honest words. Qin Wushuang said with a smile. Does the heavenly Luo Taoist sect also guard against their own people? Could it be they are afraid that you will destroy that subduing devil stone tablet and release those 2 divine Tao spiritual beasts? Luo Yang said with a bitter smile. They are not afraid of this. For the subduing devil stone tablet, unless it is the power of the divine Tao, it is impossible to destroy it. Even an expert of the exquisite mysterious realm would not be able to destroy the devil-suppressing stone tablet. With my little skills, certainly I cannot do it. Then you must use your brain. In general, I don't care what method you use, you must enter the 9 refined mysterious wind valley. Qin Wushuang said with a cold yet determined tone. Luo Yang could not help but ask, Master, what do you want to do by entering that place? You will know when the time comes. Qin Wushuang said coldly. After making the decision, their group still walked towards the main path. At the first 2 checkpoints, when they saw Luo Yang's elder command plate, of course they let him pass without hesitation. After all, the more they were on the outside, the lower their status. Naturally, they would respect the elders more. At the 3rd checkpoint, although Luo Yang showed the command plate, he was still stopped for questioning. Luo Yang explained the reason he had told them earlier. The disciple guarding the checkpoint saw that the command plate was correct and could only let him pass. He said, Elder Luo Yang, we can let you pass this checkpoint. However, the defense of the last checkpoint is presided over by Elder Luo Jun. Whether he will let you pass or not, we do not dare to make the decision. Luo Yang said indifferently, You did not stop me at this checkpoint, I am grateful. The checkpoints later on have nothing to do with you. I will not make things difficult for you. Alright, Elder Luo Yang, please. After taking back the Elder command plate, they continued to move forward. After about 100 miles, they had already arrived at the outskirts of the 9 refined mysterious wind valley. The 4th checkpoint was not far from the entrance of the valley. Looking at the situation, it would be very difficult to bypass the 4th checkpoint to enter the 9 refined mysterious wind valley. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 545. Before the 4th checkpoint, indeed, Qin Wushuang's group was stopped. Although there were only 5 disciples guarding this checkpoint, plus an elder to oversee the situation. In total, there were only 6 people. In terms of absolute strength, for sure, these 6 people were inferior to Qin Wushuang's group. However, this checkpoint was the only way to enter the 9 refined mysterious wind valley. Powerful mechanisms and formations had been set up. As long as an outsider intruded, they could activate the mechanisms and formations. The power of the mechanisms and formations far surpassed the strength of the guards. Thus, although there were only a few people, Qin Wushuang and his group did not dare to barge in. Unless they could annihilate all 6 guards and prevent them from activating the formations and mechanisms. Brother Yang, what kind of wind has blown you to the 9 refined mysterious wind valley? Luo Zhen asked with a smile as he took the command plate from Luo Yang. Since everyone was an elder of the heavenly Luo Taoist sect, of course, they were familiar with each other. They also had a clear understanding of each other's background, situation and position. Luo Yang knew that since Luo Zhen had been sent here to guard the 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley, it proved that he held an extraordinary position. At least, he was welcomed and valued by the honored Taoist. Or else, he would not have been entrusted with such an important task. In comparison, Luo Yang could only guard the Sea of Bamboo courtyard when the sect was short on manpower and was temporarily transferred. The difference between before and after was huge. Brother Zhen, I have been preparing to make a spiritual inheritance pill. I have almost prepared all the other materials. Now I only lack the thatch cloud vine. I can only find it in the 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley. Brother Zhen, could you make an exception and let me through? Luo Zhen muttered to himself for a moment. Normally, each elder would have the opportunity to enter the 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley once every 3 years. Of course, this Luo Yang also possessed this qualification. However, currently, the Heavenly Sun Mountain was short on manpower. Luo Yang had left his post after being assigned the task. This caused Luo Zhen to feel slightly dissatisfied. Brother Yang, now is a critical time. This 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley is also a forbidden place for the heavenly Luo Taoist sect. And you also have an important task. Why don't you come here after the tomb sweeping festival? At that time, I will open the gates and welcome you in. Luo Yang already knew that this would be the result. With Rasen's status, it was inevitable for him to make things difficult for him. However, Luo Yang naturally wouldn't give up just like that. He said indifferently, Brother Zhen, before and after the Qingming festival, this month won't make much of a difference, right? Can't you threaten him? Qin Wushuang's words had reminded Luo Yang of something. Just when he was about to speak, Luo Zhen said from the gate, Elder Luo Yang, I am very busy. If you truly want to go in, after the tomb sweeping festival, I will let you in when honored Taoist and the others have returned. Besides, if you only want a single thatch cloud vine, I can even ask the disciples to find one for you. You can come here to get it. Today, I am sorry, none of you can pass. Even if Luo Yang was not controlled, he would certainly become furious when he heard Luo Zhen's words. After all, this was a form of contempt and a form of challenge to his position. Elder Luo Zhen, it seems that you have forgotten that we were core disciples at a young age and were promoted to elder at the same time. You don't care about these old friendships. Very good, then let's not talk about these old friendships, they are worthless. Luo Yang said coldly. That's right, I did not have good luck. I gave birth to 2 sons and both of them died young. Among my nephews, I did not have any exceptional talent. All of this has caused my position in the heavenly Luo Taoist sect to drop significantly. All of this makes sense. Luo Zhen said with a light smile. Elder Luo Yang, it seems that it is not appropriate to talk about your family matters here, right? I am not telling you anything, I am only stating a fact for you to hear. I believe that you also know that I do not have much hope in this lifetime. I cannot increase my strength and I do not have any children or grandchildren to expand my family. In the heavenly Luo Taoist sect, I am like that trace of sunset. Elder Luo Zhen, I can understand that you are looking down on me and are deliberately making things difficult for me. If it were those elders with prominent status, let me ask you with conscience, would you refuse? Would you dare to refuse? Luo Zhen's face turned green and white. Elder Luo Yang, your assumption seems to be meaningless, right? Luo Yang laughed heartily. Meaningless? I think it is very meaningful. This is called the fickleness of the world. Very good, since you are not showing me any mercy, then I will speak without holding back. Inwardly, Luo Zhen was shocked. He looked at Luo Yang and did not know what he was implying. Hearing Luo Yang's somewhat crazy tone, Luo Zhen was somewhat worried. I, Luo Yang, do not have much time left. I only have 2 unfulfilled wishes. One of them is to pass down all my skills to one of my nephews. You know, to pass down the skills, one must have the inheritance spiritual pill. I have spent 100 years to collect the materials for this plan. If anyone dares to obstruct my plan and make it impossible to carry out, then that person will be my enemy." Luo Zhen drew a breath of cold air. From his words, this Luo Yang seemed to have gone mad. However, he was not afraid of Luo Yang's threat, as he only said with a cold sneer, "Elder Luo Yang, I did not plan to stop your plan. I already said that if you want the thatch cloud vine, I can find it for you. Or, you can come back after the Qingming festival." "Why after the Qingming festival? I don't want to wait any longer. Today I am exercising my rights. If you do not allow me to exercise this right, then you are deliberately making things difficult for me and slapping my face. For those broken excuses, you can use them to scare the young disciples. We are all old guys, do you think you can scare me? In the end, you think that I, Luo Yang, am no longer in your eyes. Very well, you know that I, Luo Yang, do not have any other shortcomings except that I am petty. You look down on me and make things difficult for me. Even if I am no longer in my best condition, I will still fight with you," Luo Zhen said with a cold sneer. "Luo Yang, do you think you can really fight with me? Do you know that as long as I activate the mechanism, even if your strength is twice as strong, you will still not be able to pass through, let alone get close to me? Luo Zhen, are you really stupid, or are you pretending? Do I have to fight with you here to make you regret it? Do you think that you do not have any weakness that I can use against you? Don't forget, even though I am not in power now, I am still in charge of the Sea of Bamboo Courtyard. You, Luo Zhen's eldest grandson, is currently cultivating at the Wolf Ivory Peak. Do you think that if I make things difficult for him, or even do some small actions, it will be enough to make you regret it for life?" When these words were said, Luo Zhen was really scared. He could not give Luo Yang a good look. He could ignore Luo Yang's protest. But he could not ignore Luo Yang's words. "Luo Yang, are you threatening me?" Luo Zhen's eyes flashed with killing intent, rising. "Yes, I am threatening you." Luo Yang did not deny it at all and said loudly, "You make things difficult for me, obstruct my plan, and make my wish unable to be fulfilled. Then you are my sworn enemy. Even if I have to destroy jade and common stone, I will still fight with you." Destroy jade and common stone. These 4 words were truly frightening to the extreme. Luo Zhen listened until his pores opened up. Hearing Luo Yang's almost crazy tone, he was absolutely not joking. It seems that Luo Yang has already gone mad. Luo Zhen was not afraid of the normal Luo Yang, but towards the abnormal Luo Yang, he was more or less somewhat afraid. Once a person went crazy, they could do any crazy thing. If Luo Yang really made a move on his eldest grandson, then the bloodline that Luo Zhen was most proud of would also be cut off. That was the greatest capital that maintained his bloodline. If he lost it, his fate would not be any better than Luo Yang's. This was a situation where one's glory was shared, and one's loss was shared. Thinking of this, Luo Zhen hesitated. "I don't want to talk nonsense. Either you let me go or I will leave." Luo Yang once again threw out a threat. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chidian.com. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 546. Razan was not a clay sculpture. Listening to Luo Yang's threat, his heart was burning with anger. Luo Yang had shed all pretense of cordiality. If it was a normal day, Razan would not be afraid of him. However, he was temporarily in charge of the Sea of Bamboo Courtyard, so it would be too easy for him to make a move on his grandson. "You either let me in or leave?" Luo Zhen hesitated. He knew that if Luo Yang left with hatred, he might really do something to his grandson. Thinking of this, Luo Zhen's anger rose from the bottom of his heart. He thought, "Luo Yang, since you want to play ruthless with me, I'll play even more ruthless with you. Don't blame me for being ruthless, you're the one who's looking for death." Luo Yang coldly stared at the changes in Luo Zhen's expression. Qin Wushuang reminded him. This Luo Zhen's eyes are flickering, I'm afraid he has some wicked ideas in his mind. Be careful of him. Luo Zhen suddenly laughed. Elder Luo Yang, do we really have to fight to this extent between us? The choice is in your hands, Luo Yang said indifferently. Elder Luo Yang, do you know that you're making things very difficult for me? Things didn't have to go this far, and I have no intention to be your enemy. Razin said hypocritically. Elder Luo Zhen, since we've already shed all pretenses of cordiality, there's no need for such hypocrisy. We're not young anymore. We're all old men. We know each other very well. Your tricks won't work. I just want a straightforward answer from you. Are you going to let them in or not? Razin said, since you've already said it, if I don't let you go, I'll be making things difficult for myself. Elder Luo Yang, don't blame me for not reminding you beforehand. If anything goes wrong outside, you'll have to bear the responsibility. What's wrong? Luo Yang sneered. What does it have to do with me? I only care about myself now. I don't care about anything else. I have worked my entire life for the heavenly Luo Daoist sect, yet in my old age, I was treated coldly everywhere. I've already gotten over it. Well, if that's the case, then hurry up and come back early, don't make things difficult for me. Razin sighed. Luo Yang was overjoyed to hear him say that. However, Qin Wushuang reminded him, this Razin suddenly became so easy to talk to, there must be a trap. Don't let him suddenly activate the mechanisms and formations while we're passing through. These words reminded Luo Yang of something. Luo Zhen looked at Luo Yang and said in a loud voice, Elder Luo Yang, the pass is open. If you want to go through, quickly go through. Creaking sounds could be heard as the gates slowly opened, revealing a long passageway that led straight to the entrance. Luo Yang stood in front of the passageway and sneered. Elder Luo Zhen, I'm thinking, if we entered the passageway and you directly activated the mechanism and array, I'm afraid we would die without a burial place, right? I'm afraid that after I die, I won't be able to rest in peace. I'll have to carry a black pot on my back. I'll have to force my way into the 9 refined mysterious wind valley. Luo Zhen's expression changed slightly. He secretly cursed this old man for being cunning. He smiled and said, Elder Luo Yang, you're overthinking things. After all, you are an elder and a pillar of the heavenly Luo Daoist sect. I, Luo Zhen, cannot do such a thing as severing one's own limb. Can't do it? Luo Yang sneered. You say you can't do it, but in your heart, I'm afraid you're already hoping for me to go in earlier. I have always been a cautious person. I never do things with risk. To tell you the truth, before I left, I already expected that you would deliberately make things difficult for me. That's why I left some pawns at the Sea of Bamboo courtyard. If I don't make it back alive today, the people I've arranged will enter the Wolf Ivory Peak with full force and kill your precious grandson. Luo Yang's eerie words made Luo Zhen's blood run cold. Luo Zhen realized that this Luo Yang was much more difficult to deal with than he had imagined. At this moment, Luo Yang was like an easily angered, hungry wolf. At any moment, he would show his claws and fangs. Luo Zhen could not help but feel apprehensive when facing such a crazy enemy. Without a choice, Luo Zhen could only ask, Elder Luo Yang, since you don't trust me, then tell me your thoughts. Do as you say. Luo Yang gave a glance to Qin Wushuang and the others. I will let 3 of my subordinates go first, then 2 more will go. I will go last. If you activate the mechanism, any one of us can send the message to the Sea of Bamboo courtyard through the communication jade plate. Luo Zhen was completely speechless. This Luo Yang was indeed extremely cautious. Elder Luo Yang, in the end, what are you scheming to enter the 9 refined mysterious wind valley? Now, I feel more and more that you are not simply gathering medicinal herbs. Luo Yang said with a cold sneer. Then what else do you think I can do? Even if I have the ambition to destroy the subduing Devil Stone Tablet, I do not have the ability. For other things, what else do you think I could be scheming? Luojian said in a low voice. There must be something you want. This thing is not as simple as gathering medicinal herbs. If you like to imagine, then think more. Haha, you three go in first. Luo Yang waved his hand at Qin Wushuang and the others. Qin Wushuang, Bao Bao, and Lone walked towards that passage without hesitation. From Luo Jin's point of view, they were only 3 subordinates when they entered the passage. Even if he wanted to activate the mechanism, he would not make a move on the 3 subordinates and let the main character Luo Yang go. Thus, it was the safest for them to enter the same passage. Indeed, Qin Wushuang and the others walked through the long passage. Although the passage fluctuated with powerful earth elemental power and prevented them from increasing their speed, there was a great resistance as if they were moving in the water. After they passed through safely, the second group of 2 people were Luo Yang's trusted subordinate. They also passed through safely. When they arrived at Luo Yang's side, suddenly, Luo Yang chuckled and said to Luo Jin, Luo Jin, it's enough for my subordinates to go in. I am still worried about you and decided not to go in. Luo Jin was dumbstruck. For a time, he did not know what Luo Yang wanted to do. However, he felt more reassured when Luo Yang did not go in. Humph, Elder Luo Yang, I hope your subordinates will not play any tricks after they went in. Otherwise, you know what the Tao Masters are capable of if something really happens. Currently, Luo Yang's mind was completely controlled by Qin Wushuang. He did not put the Tao warriors, the heavenly Luo Taoist sect, in his eyes. Naturally, his thoughts leaned towards Qin Wushuang's side. However, he did not bicker as he only said with a cold sneer, Elder Luo Jin, you should think more about yourself. If you don't play any tricks, everything will come to an end. If you are playing any tricks, you should think more about your precious grandson. His precious grandson was Luo Jin's weak spot. Luo Yang had grasped it accurately. Although Luo Jin was burning with anger, he could not do anything. Currently, all the core disciples had been pulled to the Wolf Ivory Peak to train in isolation for half a year. They were not allowed to use the communication jade plate. It was to prevent them from being disturbed by the worldly affairs from the outside world and affecting their training. This also limited Luo Jin, as he could not use the communication jade plate to contact his precious grandson. Since he had a heavy responsibility at the 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley, it was impossible for him to enter the Wolf Ivory Peak to look for him. Thus, the smartest choice was to not offend Luo Yang. He must not enrage this guy that he had labeled as crazy. When Qin Wushuang and his group passed the checkpoint smoothly, they were all extremely excited. After passing through the entrance of the valley, they entered the legendary 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley. Wow, boss, indeed this place is different. When they walked into the 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley, Bao Bao sensed a wave of completely different atmosphere. This atmosphere was indescribable and extremely mysterious. However, it was extremely different. Qin Wushuang turned to speak to Luo Yang's 2 subordinates. You 2 guard here. Regardless of who wants to come in, you must stop them. At the same time, inform me through spiritual perception. Yes, master. Naturally, these 2 subordinates were also controlled by the divine venomous insect. Like Luo Yang, they had become Qin Wushuang's puppets. Without a doubt, leaving 2 puppets to guard the entrance of the valley would be another layer of insurance. Qin Wushuang took Bao Bao and Lone and continued to go deeper. Even after entering the 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley, Qin Wushuang did not dare to let down his guard. It was because he had heard from Luo Yang that this 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley not only had 4 open checkpoints, it also had secret guards. Thus, now was not the time to get carried away. Opening the map, Qin Wushuang started to study the route of this 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley. This 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley was a forbidden area of the heavenly Luo Taoist sect. Outsiders were not allowed to step in. Thus, although Lu Xianlu had drawn a map, the route was not clear. The map of the Xian Yuan Mound that Qin Wushuang had acquired from the third circle of the Seven Deadly Arrays formation was only a general map. For a place as small as a sect, it would not be detailed to such extent. Thus, Qin Wushuang only had Lu Xianlu's rough map. Qin Wushuang expected that Lu Xianlu must have acquired this map through various methods. Certainly, he had not entered this 9 refined mysterious wind valley. Or else, the map would be much more detailed. However, with a general direction, Qin Wushuang had some idea. As they walked towards the direction indicated, they did not forget their current identity as herb gatherers. Even when conversing, they used their spiritual perception to communicate. Before reaching the final destination, they would never expose their identities and motives. Boss, this valley is truly huge. In the Xian Yuan Mound, many mountain ranges and valleys were extremely vast. Since this 9 refined mysterious wind valley was rumored to be the ruins of a divine battle, naturally, it was extremely impressive. It was about 10,000 miles wide. Initially, the 3 of them tried to fly. However, this 9 refined mysterious wind valley clearly suppressed flying skills. They could not fly freely. This made it more difficult for them to find their destination. It was because if they were to walk, their field of vision would not be as vast as flying in the air. Of course, Qin Wushuang was not discouraged. Entering this 9 refined mysterious wind valley meant they were one step closer to success. The more difficult the environment and the more difficult the process, the more it proved the extraordinary significance of this matter. After walking for a few hours, the terrain became even more serene and steep. They would often encounter those dense black forests that would cover the sky. Boss, if there is truly a subduing devil stone tablet, it would be easy to see it as long as it appears in our field of vision. Unfortunately, the terrain of this 9 refined mysterious wind valley is too strange. There is no flat ground and our field of vision is easily obstructed. Bao Bao complained. While they were walking, suddenly waves of tsunami-like sound emerged from the dense pine forest ahead of them. The pine trees rustled as if a magnificent army with thousands of men and horses were charging from behind the pine forest. What is that? Bao Bao asked with surprise. Everyone be careful, Qin Wushuang called out. Before he had finished speaking, suddenly, as if tens of thousands of demons had crawled out from the dense pine forest, waves of black lights kept rolling over. That temperament was like a river that had broken the dike as it surged forward. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chidian.com, support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 547. Instantly, the entire sky was filled with a wave of murderous intent. These black lights were like murderous battle blades that were extremely sharp. It's the astral wind. Qin Wushuang called out, everyone be careful. He activated the azure blue armor and unleashed a layer of protection from his entire body. However, Lone laughed. Good timing. Let's see how powerful this astral wind is. Whoosh. Before Xiao Chun could finish speaking, the saber-like astral winds were already shooting over, one after another. Before it had reached their bodies, that burning murderous intent had already made their hair curl up. Lie down. Qin Wushuang immediately shouted when he saw Lone and Bao Bao trying to be brave. While he was shouting, Qin Wushuang jumped up like a fish and pushed these 2 buffoons to the ground. The whistling sound of the wind beside their ears was like the devil's spell. It kept howling and wreaking havoc. When this wind blew past, it was like an unbridled destruction. The vegetation was dazzling, stone fragments swirled in the air, and everywhere was a mess. After an unknown amount of time, this astral wind gradually calmed down. The whistling sound beside their ears also gradually calmed down. Bao Bao and Lone still had lingering fears. If it were just 1 or 2 waves of astral wind, they could have withstood it. However, when the astral wind rose, It was like the depths of a vast ocean. The waves were endless, wave after wave, giving them no time to react at all. Too dangerous. Bao Bao stuck out his tongue and looked at the doomsday-like scene around him. With lingering fears, he felt lucky. "Ha ha, boss, are you all right?" Lone scratched his head and looked at Qin Wushuang with some fear, like a kid who had made a mistake. Qin Wushuang said with a bitter smile, "You two are too arrogant. Don't forget, this is the 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley, not an ordinary place. No wonder this valley has the word wind in its name. That wind from a moment ago was devilish. It's too terrifying. If we were to get rolled by that wind, wouldn't it be the same as getting attacked by thousands and thousands of weapons?" Bao Bao was also embarrassed and did not dare to look at Qin Wushuang's eyes. "It's good that you're fine. Don't be so careless next time." Qin Wushuang could not blame them. After all, these two were from the Beast clan. Naturally, they had a fearless personality in their bones. This was a madness unique to the Beast. This unexpected storm was daunting but not dangerous. It was a reminder to Qin Wushuang and the others. In this place, one absolutely could not be careless. Once one had such thoughts, one might have one foot in the gates of hell. As a result, Qin Wushuang and the others became even more cautious. Bao Bao and Lone also threw away their previous mischievous attitude and treated it seriously. "Boss, why do you think this valley is called the 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley?" The 2 words profound wind, we have finally experienced it. As for the 2 words 9 refinements, how do you explain it? Bao Bao could not resist his talkative personality. The 9 refinements should be related to the trial, right? Didn't you hear what Luoyang said? For this 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley, ordinary disciples are not qualified to enter. Only the core disciples have the opportunity. Perhaps the 9 refinements represent 9 trial opportunities? Lone explained as he thought himself to be smart. "Impossible, how could you explain it this way?" Bao Bao snorted disdainfully at Lone's explanation. Most likely, Lone knew that this explanation was somewhat far-fetched. He laughed and looked at Qin Wushuang. Clearly, he wanted to hear Qin Wushuang's brilliant opinion. Qin Wushuang said, "This name leaves too much room for imagination. Let's not care about what this name means. Most importantly, what is hidden inside this 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley. There must be a reason why Senior Lu Xianlu secretly guided us here. Didn't Luoyang say it? There are 2 divine Tao spiritual beasts sealed here. Senior Lu Xianlu must want us to destroy that subduing devil stone tablet and release the 2 divine Tao spiritual beasts, right?" Bao Bao asked with uncertainty. Qin Wushuang shook his head. "Currently we are not sure. Luoyang also said that it's only a rumor. Regarding the exact truth, only Luo Tongtian knows the truth in the heavenly Luo Daoist sect." Bao Bao said with determination, "Regardless of whether there are divine Tao spiritual beasts sealed here, that subduing devil stone tablet is the key." Qin Wushuang nodded. "Yes, regardless, let's find that subduing devil stone tablet first." While they were speaking, they had already passed through that dense and dark pine forest. Ahead of them, another high slope had appeared. This high slope was shrouded by clouds and fog that obscured their vision. Fortunately, Bao Bao's pupil attachment technique had been trained to the fiery eyes connected to the spirit stage. His vision could penetrate the dense fog and see further places. Although he could not see as far as the eye could see as usual, the places he could see were much wider than Qin Wushuang. "Bao Bao, do you see anything suspicious? Along the way up this high slope there are strange craggy rocks. Besides that, there is nothing special," Bao Bao said. "Let's go up and take a look." Qin Wushuang did not delay and walked up. To them, time was of the essence. It could be said that they were racing against time. Any slight delay would most likely cause their plan to fail. As they were getting closer to their target, of course, Qin Wushuang would not let the duck in his mouth fly away. Whenever he thought of the grievous news of the Stargaze Palace, the surge of anger inside Qin Wushuang's chest surged like a tidal wave. After passing this slope and climbing to the top of the mountain, Bao Bao looked into the distance and was overjoyed at the unexpected good news. "Boss, look, what is that?" In the distance, between the lingering fog, a towering stone tablet pierced through the clouds and gave people a majestic feeling. Qin Wushuang was overjoyed. Subduing Devil Stone Tablet? Yes, for sure. Bao Bao and Lone both cheered and jumped for joy. They dashed downwards happily. That subduing Devil Stone Tablet was on the high ground of the opposite slope. This was the principle of the so-called looking at the mountain, it is close to death. Although it appeared to be on the opposite side, it was rather troublesome to go down and up the slope. It was because the defenses of this refined mysterious wind valley were extremely powerful. They could not fly in the air and had to take these detours. After passing through a few obstacles and climbing a few slopes, they finally arrived at the slope where the stone tablet was located. Immersed in it, they could feel the towering temperament of this stone tablet. "Let's go." Qin Wushuang was also overjoyed. With their target close at hand, he was also overjoyed. Bao Bao and Lone jumped for joy and dashed forward quickly. Suddenly, Qin Wushuang sensed a wave of cold, murderous intentions as he immediately shouted, "Hold on!" His figure dashed forward and stopped Bao Bao, Lone and the others. Almost at the same time, tens and thousands of golden lights shot out from the surroundings of that stone tablet. It was as if a giant sword formation had been activated all of a sudden. Tens and thousands of sword lights shot out like golden needles. It was extremely dangerous. Qin Wushuang and Bao Bao rolled down the slope and finally avoided the attack of this golden light. From afar, they could see a layer of faint golden light still attached to the surface of this subduing Devil Stone Tablet. It emitted a dazzling brilliance. If they had been 3 meters closer, most likely, Bao Bao and Lone would have turned into hedgehogs by this golden light. "Boss, you saved us again." Bao Bao and Lone also felt extremely lucky to have escaped from death. Qin Wushuang shook his head and did not speak a word. He only observed that towering stone tablet carefully. The stone tablet was smooth, and there were no words or hints left on it. Just by looking at it from the outside, he could not see any clues. Qin Wushuang circled around this stone tablet a few times. In the end, he could not see anything. This stone tablet seemed to have been erected there since ancient times. Although it was silent, it was filled with a dignified feeling. "Boss, could it be, some divine Tao spiritual beast is truly being suppressed here?" Bao Bao looked at this stone tablet with a face full of curiosity. Inwardly, he was also shocked. However, Lone said, "Boss, regardless of whether it is a sealed stone tablet or not, since it is at the heavenly Luo Daoist sect, for sure it has a beneficial relationship with them. Regardless of the consequences, let's destroy it first." "Yes, since Mr. Lu Xianlu guided us here, he must have come for this subduing Devil Stone Tablet. Boss, why don't we start?" Bao Bao also encouraged him. Inwardly, Qin Wushuang was somewhat hesitant. He was certain that this place was closely related to the heavenly Luo Daoist sect. Regardless of whether it was the subduing Devil Stone Tablet, for sure this place was an important place to the heavenly Luo Daoist sect. From the difficulty of entering this place, most likely this stone tablet was closely related to the heavenly Luo Daoist sect, as Lu Xianlu had said. Luo Yang once said that to destroy this stone tablet, I must master the power of the divine Tao. Apparently, Qin Wushuang still had many concerns. "Boss, since you have the graceful spiritual bow, it should be a divine Tao weapon, right?" Lone asked. "Yes, there are also 5 divine Tao, 5 elemental talismans. For sure, Senior Lu Xianlu had left them for you. Boss, don't hesitate. Think about it, perhaps people of the heavenly Luo Daoist sect are still massacring people in the human countries." Murderous intentions flashed across Qin Wushuang's eyes as he thought. Mr. Lu Xianluo's guidance was cut off when we reached this subduing devil stone tablet. It seems that this subduing devil stone tablet is the destination Lu Xianlu had guided us to. Regardless of the result and whether or not this stone tablet is closely related to the heavenly Luo Daoist sect, I have no other choice. I have no other choice. In fact, the concern deep inside Qin Wushuang's heart was not because of anything else, but because he suddenly remembered his experience at the Green Jade Mountain. That Green Jade Mountain was the border between the Great Luo Empire and the Heavenly Lake Empire. It was also the location of the first circle of the 7 deadly formation arrays. Initially, after Qin Wushuang had entered that mountain cave, he had fallen into that transportation spiritual formation. He had activated the main mechanism and raised the entire Green Jade Mountain to the ground. That experience had left a deep impression on him. Currently, Qin Wushuang was worried that the scene from that time would repeat itself. If that scene were to happen, it would be a devastating blow to the heavenly Luo Daoist sect. However, it would be unavoidable for them to be buried here. Such hesitation did not last long. After a moment, Qin Wushuang had made up his mind. Since he was already here and had chosen to wage war with the heavenly Luo Daoist sect, regardless of the outcome, he must try with such opportunity. This was his only choice to fight against the heavenly Luo Daoist sect. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please log on to www.chidian.com. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 548. Thinking here, Qin Wushuang shouted in a low voice, "Bao Bao Lone, step back and wait for me at the bottom of the hill. Don't get close to this subduing devil stone tablet, to avoid getting hurt when it collapses." Bao Bao and Lone refused at the same time. "Boss, the 3 of us share life and death together. It's not that easy for you to leave us behind, ha ha." Qin Wushuang said in a low voice. "This is my first time using the power of the Supreme Tao, I cannot control it well. You guys don't need to stay here. Besides, I have the protection of the Azure Armor. It's not fair that you guys don't have the basic protection. Go down, this is an order." Bao Bao and Lone were still hesitant. Indeed, they could not leave Qin Wushuang behind. Once the beasts had made up their minds, they were more loyal than humans and valued friendship more than humans. "Go. Don't delay, it's pointless to waste time. If you guys stay here, I will not be able to perform at my best. If you guys go down, I will not be distracted and can unleash all my power perfectly." These were not empty words. Since he did not need to worry about Bao Bao and Lone, naturally Qin Wushuang would be more relaxed. Bao Bao and Lone exchanged a helpless glance. They knew that Qin Wushuang had made up his mind, and they could not persuade him. Instantly they nodded. "Boss, then you must be careful." Qin Wushuang nodded and already took out the graceful spiritual bow and the 5 supreme Tao spiritual talismans. According to the introduction, these 5 spiritual talismans could be added onto the weapon directly. The graceful spiritual bow was a supreme Tao weapon. With the addition of these spiritual talismans, it would be like adding wings to a tiger. When he saw that Bao Bao and Lone had retreated far enough, Qin Wushuang spread out the 5 supreme Tao spiritual talismans. In fact, the principle of the supreme Tao 5 elemental talisman was simple. It was constructed according to the 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Naturally, Qin Wushuang did not plan to add all 5 spiritual talismans at once. To truly unleash its power, 1 spiritual talisman would be enough. Metal meant an indestructible temperament. Its attack power should be the most tyrannical. Therefore, Qin Wushuang decided to use this metal spiritual talisman. Chanting an incantation and forming a hand seal, he added this talisman onto the graceful spiritual bow. With this support, the graceful spiritual bow was like a half-asleep and half-awake lion that had suddenly regained its vigor. It exuded a soul-stirring aura. It was as if this graceful spiritual bow had been injected with chicken blood. Suddenly, it was full of energy and emitted a divine aura that made Qin Wushuang's breathing speed up. As expected of an item of the divine Tao. This should be the fusion of the power of the divine Tao and the exchange, right? Qin Wushuang felt the graceful spiritual Bao's unceasing expansion and change. Without a doubt, the divine Tao gold spiritual talisman had already started to display its effect on the graceful spiritual Bao. The power of the graceful spiritual Bao was expanding at a terrifying speed. Just as Lu Xianlu had mentioned, this divine Tao talisman was able to increase the offensive power of any weapon by several folds. It seemed that he wasn't bragging. Qin Wushuang's consciousness was also integrated into the concept of the graceful spiritual Bao. To control the graceful spiritual Bao and maximize the power of the graceful spiritual Bao, the only way was to integrate the consciousness and achieve the state where the person and the weapon became one. This was also Qin Wushuang's experience in controlling the graceful spiritual Bao in these years. As the power of the graceful spiritual Bao continued to expand, Qin Wushuang's consciousness also continued to expand. At this moment, in his line of sight, the subduing Devil Stone tablet was no longer as mighty and awe-inspiring as before. On the contrary, in his eyes, this subduing Devil Stone tablet was an obstacle, a bumpy road that he had to overcome. A strange thought kept emerging in his mind. Destroy this stone tablet, destroy this stone tablet. This thought kept rolling around in his consciousness, driving his nerves and giving him continuous psychological hints. All of this caused Qin Wushuang's qi and blood to rush to a peak. Qin Wushuang roared and knocked the dark green arrow on the bowstring. At the same time, he urged his consciousness to integrate the power of the divine Tao talisman into the dark green arrow. The person, the Bao, and the arrow became one and formed a perfect communication and integration. It also gradually pushed Qin Wushuang's energy and spirit to a peak. The arrow on the bowstring had to be released. At this moment, Qin Wushuang felt as if he had continuously climbed to a peak and finally reached the peak. He urgently needed to vent. Shooting these 3 jade-green arrows was undoubtedly the best way for him to vent his frustrations. Divine light flashed in Qin Wushuang's eyes. The bloody light on his entire body was as clear as an earthworm. He shouted, "Open!" Like an ancient demonic dragon that was wreaking havoc, the 3 dark green arrows carried an earth-shattering aura and shot forward like lightning. The 3 arrows with imposing aura dyed the entire void green. The entire world seemed to have suddenly become a green world. However, this green was not the green of hope, nor was it the green of vitality. Instead, it was an indestructible green that carried an intense murderous intent and judgment as it bombarded the stone tablet. Boom, boom, boom. 3 earth-shattering explosions sounded in succession. Qin Wushuang's eardrums almost could not withstand such violent vibrations. In the next moment, 3 spider web-like cracks appeared on the stone tablet that was soaring into the sky. The 3 dark green arrows and 3 cracks started to appear on the stone tablet. These cracks started from thin threads and slowly expanded. It was so fast that it was too much for the eyes to take in. Crack, crack, the stone tablet started to shake and a series of cracking sounds could be heard. This demon-subduing stone tablet was really blasted apart by the power of Qin Wushuang's 3 arrows. Moreover, the place where the stone tablet was broken was divided into 3 parts. There were 4 parts in total, and they were breaking apart at an unstoppable speed. Boom, 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 almost at the same time, outside the entrance of the 9 refined mysterious wind valley, Luo Zhen's expression changed greatly. He looked in the direction of the valley in disbelief and hissed, "Luo Yang, what is your follower doing inside?" The corner of Luo Yang's mouth revealed a trace of an imperceptible sneer. He ignored Luo Zhen and his figure flashed, disappearing into the bushes at the side of the road. Luo Zhen's expression changed greatly. Even an elder as strong as him was panicking at this moment. He knew that the situation was not good and he kept cursing. It's over. The demon-subduing stone tablet must have been destroyed. Before he finished speaking, the ground beneath his feet shook violently. The entrance he was in also started to shake. The formations and mechanisms were activated automatically without any contact. All kinds of restrictions were activated and shot in all directions. The tremors caused the huge rocks in the entrance to dance in the air. It was extremely chaotic. Luo Zhen hurriedly called out, quickly leave this place." The guarding disciples had stayed here for so many years and had never encountered such a strange thing. They knew that the situation was not good and they all rushed out of the entrance. They scattered in a hubbub as if they were running for their lives. Before they could react, suddenly, a wave of despairing loud sound emerged from the entire entrance. The entire entrance had exploded. The powerful shock wave had shaken them a few hundred meters away. Inside the core of the explosion, all the buildings had been razed to the ground. Everything, including the rocks, trees, and debris, had turned into dust in the blink of an eye. In many places of the heavenly Sun Mountain, the same thing was happening in the same way. Inside the Sea of Bamboo courtyard, Landlord Zhuo was lost in thought as he looked at the wolf ivory peak. Suddenly, his eyelids twitched as he could hardly believe his eyes. It was because he saw that a wave of black fog had emerged out of nowhere from the majestic wolf ivory peak. Next, like a piece of tofu, the tip of the wolf ivory peak had fallen off. Next, the entire wolf ivory peak had been crushed by an invisible giant hand, as if it was made of mud. That scene was like a mountain made of ceramic had been smashed by a rock. Instantly, it had been crushed into dust and collapsed with a loud rumble. The wolf ivory peak had collapsed. Landlord Zhuo was not the only one who had seen this scene. Many people from the Sea of Bamboo courtyard had also seen it. Only, when they had reacted, the entire Sea of Bamboo courtyard had also sunk in. Everyone only felt that the ground beneath their feet was floating. They looked down and saw a giant pit had appeared on the ground. It was as if a rampaging ferocious beast hidden underground had suddenly opened its bloody mouth. Like a whirlpool, it had rolled the entire Sea of Bamboo courtyard into it. All the buildings and the people in the buildings were like ants in a torrential flood. They couldn't resist at all and were directly swallowed up. Such situation was even more terrifying than the end of the world. The situation at the headquarters of the heavenly Luo Daoist sect was not much better. All the palaces and the buildings on the left and right had collapsed in rows like tofu. Currently, the person holding the highest position in the heavenly Luo Daoist sect was the fourth Dao warrior, Zhuo Lungshuang. The instant when the subduing devil stone tablet had collapsed, he had sensed that something was wrong. Almost at the speed of lightning, he shot out of the palace he was in and soared into the sky. He spread his spiritual perception across the buildings of the heavenly Luo Daoist sect and shouted, "All disciples, hurry and leave any buildings of the sect, hurry." Due to the haste of the matter, they only had the time for a few breaths to react. Those with fast reactions were able to escape this calamity. For those with slow reactions, they did not even have the chance. They only felt a wave of destructive presence rolling in. Both the people and the buildings were rolled in with irresistible force. Instantly, the entire heavenly Luo Daoist sect was in a state of chaos. Zhuo Lungshuang floated in midair. As far as his eyes could see, the mountains collapsed one after another under his eyes. Even for someone as strong as him, he could not believe the scene before him. His face could not help but turn green and his lips trembled uncontrollably. "Fourth Dao warrior, what is going on? Dao warrior, what is going on?" Those Shakyamuni elders and disciples that had escaped all gathered towards Zhuo Lungshuang. Zhuo Lungshuang's expression was extremely unsightly as he looked at these faces with empty eyes. Apparently, up to this moment, he could not calm down and could not face this unbelievable scene before him. For a time, the entire heavenly Sun Mountain had fallen into an endless calamity, as if the end of the world had arrived. For a time, at least 70 to 80% of their foundation had been destroyed. Fear, panic, doubt, despair, all kinds of expressions were written on the faces of these people that had escaped with their lives. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please log on to www.chidian.com. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 549. Disaster at this unpredictable moment erupted. The entire heavenly Luo Daoist sect had fallen into despair. Zhuang looked at everything that was happening around him with disbelief. He almost thought he was dreaming. However, the panicked faces before him, the fear of the survivors, the struggle of the dying, the sorrowful cries, and the piercing shrieks pierced his eardrums. He had to admit that everything was real. Suddenly, a thought flashed across his mind: subduing Devil Stone Tablet. Yes, the subduing Devil Stone Tablet. He remembered that the head Dao warrior had mentioned that the countless mechanisms the heavenly Luo Daoist sect had set up at the heavenly Sun Mountain had used the spiritual qi from the ley lines of the subduing Devil Stone Tablet. The spiritual qi from the ley lines of the subduing Devil Stone Tablet was abundant. Because of this, they had built such a spiritual qi gathering tablet. In fact, the subduing Devil Stone Tablet was only a cover. There were no devils or demonic spirit. Those were all a cover for the heavenly Luo Daoist sect. When he thought here, Zhuang's entire body quivered, as if he had been electrocuted. He immediately grabbed the communication jade plate. He must tell this grievous news to head Dao warrior Luo Tongtian immediately. Currently, Luo Tongtian was searching for Qin Wushuang. When he received Zhuang's message, he almost thought the other party was joking. However, how could such a joke be made randomly? Plus, with Zhuang's personality, he was not someone who liked to joke. Even someone as formidable as Luo Tongtian was dumbstruck when he heard this news. Instantly, he had become petrified. Head Dao warrior, please return to the mountain to take charge of the situation. The situation is terrible. The heavenly Luo Daoist sect is out of control. Zhuang spoke with a begging tone. Luo Tongtian's head was filled with blood. He suppressed the shock and asked in a low voice, "What happened? Who did this?" Currently, Zhuang knew nothing. Head Dao warrior, the heavenly Sun Mountain is in a state of chaos. We don't even know what happened. It's an unexpected disaster. The subduing Devil Stone Tablet is only my guess. Needless to say, something had happened to the subduing Devil Stone Tablet. Inwardly, Luo Tongtian felt deep pain and even had the thought of dying. This subduing Devil Stone Tablet had been established since the heavenly Luo Daoist sect was founded. It had been passed down to this day. All spiritual qi formations of the heavenly Luo Daoist sect were connected to the spiritual qi from the ley lines of the subduing Devil Stone Tablet. Because of this reason, to the outside world, the heavenly Luo Daoist sect could be said to be impregnable and possessed superior defensive power. For generations, the heavenly Luo Daoist sect had also listed the heavenly Sun Mountain as their private land and closed their mountain gate to be their local emperor. The heavenly Luo Daoist sect was proud of all of this. Who would have thought that the historical inheritance that they were so proud of would be destroyed in a day? He was currently 200,000 to 300,000 miles away from the Divine Brilliance Manor. If he wanted to rush back, it would take him at least 2 days. Her heart was burning with anxiety, but she had no other choice. The sect had reached a moment of life and death. As a head Dao paragon, he had to rush back without hesitation. The devil-suppressing stone tablet was erected by the first-generation founder. It was the work of a divine-level expert. It's impossible for it to break for no reason. Luo Tongtian knew very well that someone must have sabotaged it. However, in order to destroy the steel, one must possess the power of the divine path. When had the heavenly Luo Daoist sect offended an elite warrior of the divine level? Thinking of this, Luo Tongtian shuddered. He did not dare to think further. If an elite warrior of the divine level had made a move against the heavenly Luo Daoist sect, then even if Luo Tongtian were to rush back, he would only be sending himself to death. Although his current strength was at the peak of the profound mysterious boundary stage and was only one step away from the supreme Tao stage. However, this one step was the difference between heaven and earth. For the power of the divine Tao, it would be as easy as blowing off dust to kill him, who was at the peak of the profound mysterious stage. The power of the divine Tao was an existence that transcended the limits of the body and condensed the divine soul. That level of existence was not something he, at the profound mysterious stage, could compare with. When Luo Tongtian thought here, his heart was filled with doubts. He even felt some fear and uneasiness. However, in the end, he refused to believe that there was no hatred without reason in the Xian Yuan Mound. He could not remember when he had offended an elite warrior of the divine level. The heavenly Luo Daoist sect had always concealed their strength and bided their time in the Divine Brilliance Prefecture. They rarely made enemies. Inside the Xian Yuan Mound, they had never gotten into a conflict with those sects that possessed elite warriors of the divine level. Even for those sects with elite warriors of the divine level, they would not send an elite warrior to destroy the mountain gate for no reason. Besides, the subduing Devil Stone Tablet was the core secret of the heavenly Luo Daoist sect. Outsiders would not know that the subduing Devil Stone Tablet was the lifeline of the heavenly Luo Daoist sect. Could it be there was a communication between the inside and the outside, and a traitor had appeared? Luo Tongtian's heart throbbed. Then, he remembered something and his eyelids twitched. Could it be the heavenly Emperor Qin clan? Yes. Luo Tongtian's expression was extremely unsightly. He was certain that for sure, the elite warrior of the heavenly Emperor Qin clan had taken revenge. Regarding who the heavenly Luo Daoist sect had formed a grudge with, it had happened recently. In the recent period, the heavenly Luo Daoist sect had fought with the heavenly Emperor Qin clan a few times. However, these battles had happened recently. Everything was caused by that kid of the Qin clan in the human countries. Heavenly Emperor Qin clan, Heavenly Emperor Qin clan. Luo Tongtian's heart was filled with a wave of ruthlessness. If he had not considered his lack of strength, he would have had the impulse to kill his way to the heavenly Emperor Qin clan. However, his rationality still told him that he must not act recklessly. If it were the elite warriors of the heavenly Emperor Qin clan, the Sound of Thunder sect and the heavenly Punishing Villa would not remain indifferent. After all, those two powerhouses were the mortal enemies of the heavenly Emperor Qin clan. Each of their elite warriors of the divine level restrained each other. If the elite warriors of the heavenly Emperor Qin clan had made a move, those two powerhouses would not have made the slightest sound. Impossible. Even within the Xian Yuan Mound, the influence of a divine-level warrior making a move was extremely shocking. When he thought here, Luo Tongtian took out the communication jade plate. Just as he was about to contact, suddenly, a wave of urgent messages came from the other side. It was Luo Henji, the second Dao warrior he was looking for. Head Dao warrior, what's going on? Isn't the subduing Devil Stone Tablet the work of the divine Dao? How could it break for no reason? Damage to the ley lines, backlash from the spiritual qi? Luo Henji was filled with a series of question marks. Second, it's useless to speak these nonsense now. Let me ask you, did you receive any news that the elite warriors of the heavenly Emperor Qin clan had made a move? Luo Tongtian asked cautiously. Apparently, Luo Henji had also considered this possibility as he immediately answered, Head Dao warrior, I asked those leaders of the Sound of Thunder sect and the heavenly Punishing Villa. They told me firmly that the elite warriors of the heavenly Emperor Qin clan had not made a move. If it were the elite warriors of the Heavenly Emperor Qin clan, they would have known. It's not the elite warriors of the Heavenly Emperor Qin clan? Luo Tongtian was completely stunned. If it was not the elite warriors of the Heavenly Emperor Qin clan, then he was completely confused. He could not think of any other elite warriors of the Heavenly Luo Daoist sect could have offended. For a time, he had fallen into a state of confusion. He only felt that his brain was in a mess and did not have a single clue. However, after all, he was the leader of a sect. After a moment of absent-mindedness, he regained his calm and said to Luo Henji, "Second, you must return to the Daoist sect immediately. If possible, it would be even better if you could invite any elite warriors of the divine level from those two powerhouses." Luo Henji gave a long sigh. "I've already invited them. Their elite warriors of the divine level are not willing to make a move. They only look at the Heavenly Emperor Qin clan. Apparently, they are not willing to provoke the other elite warriors of the divine level. This way, then why are we still seeking them to form an alliance?" "What alliance?" Luo Tongtian could not help but feel somewhat anxious. "They said that we can form an alliance to deal with the Heavenly Emperor Qin clan. However, other matters are not within the scope of the alliance." Luo Henji was extremely helpless. To put it bluntly, in the end, it was because the Heavenly Luo Daoist sect did not have enough strength. They did not take them seriously. If the Heavenly Luo Daoist sect were to produce an elite warrior of the divine level, then the treatment would be completely different. Even if they could not sit on equal footing, at least they could negotiate conditions. Unfortunately, for many generations, the Heavenly Luo Daoist sect had not produced an elite warrior of the divine level. Although Luo Tongtian was angry, in fact, he knew that these two powerhouses had set their eyes on the Heavenly Emperor Qin clan and feared them. Each of these two powerhouses only had 2 elite warriors of the divine level. Certainly, they would not leave easily. However, the Heavenly Emperor Qin clan had 3 elite warriors of the divine level. If the two powerhouses were separated, none of them would be a match for the Heavenly Emperor Qin clan. However, when the two powerhouses worked together, they could suppress the Heavenly Emperor Qin clan. After all, when the two powerhouses worked together, it was equivalent to having 4 elite warriors of the Supreme Tao. Compared to the Heavenly Emperor Qin clan, they had 1 more elite warrior of the Supreme Tao. Do not underestimate this difference of numbers. In the Xian Yuan Mound, the number of elite warriors of the Supreme Tao would not exceed 50. The difference of 1 elite warrior of the Supreme Tao meant a lot. It even meant life and death. The attitude of the Sound of Thunder sect and the Heavenly Punishing Villa was clear. They did not plan to get involved in this matter of the Heavenly Luo Daoist sect. In other words, even if elite warriors of the Supreme Tao were to attack the Heavenly Luo Daoist sect, Luo Tongtian and the others could only choose to save themselves. When he thought here, Luo Tongtian felt even more anxious. While he sent out the order to gather all higher-ups and disciples of the Heavenly Luo Daoist sect to return to the mountain gate to protect them, he also racked his brains to think of countermeasures. When those higher-ups disciples that were chasing after Qin Wushuang received the news, each of them found it unbelievable and could not accept this reality. On the other hand, inside the 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley, Bao Bao and Lone were digging through the ruins madly. Their eyes were filled with tears. After Qin Wushuang had shot those 3 arrows, the subduing Devil Stone tablet had suddenly collapsed. With a flash of light, a giant whirlpool had swallowed the entire mountain slope where Qin Wushuang was at. Along with the mud and sand, Qin Wushuang was also engulfed by this wave of light. Fortunately, Bao Bao and Lone had hidden far enough away to escape this calamity. However, at this moment, they did not have the slightest joy of surviving a calamity. They only had one thought in their head, and that was to dig out Boss. When Qin Wushuang was engulfed by that white light, his mind was in a state of chaos. He thought he was dead for sure. However, after this white light had engulfed him, a strange halo emerged around his body. Like an eggshell wrapping around a chicken egg, it wrapped him inside. Although he was engulfed by this white light, like a bumping boat in the vast ocean, he was not in any danger. After an unknown amount of time, this jolting feeling finally calmed down. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please log on to www.chidian.com. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 550. When Qin Wushuang opened his eyes and realized his current situation, he did not know whether to laugh or cry. In that instant, he was extremely clear-headed and knew that he had been swept away by that wave of powerful power. That wave of suction was extremely tyrannical, like an underground whirlpool. With Qin Wushuang's strength, he was powerless to resist. However, to Qin Wushuang's surprise, this invisible defensive wall had saved his life. Although he didn't know how this defensive wall came to be, it was obvious that this defensive wall had something to do with the divine light baptism he had received. In the end, all of Qin Wushuang's fortuitous opportunities had originated from the 7 deadly formation arrays. Since that 7 deadly formation arrays had been baptized twice by the spiritual light, surely there were secrets that Qin Wushuang did not know. However, at the moment, Qin Wushuang did not have the time to consider these things. Although it was extremely comfortable inside this defensive wall, he also knew that since he had been swept in by that whirlpool, he must have entered the Earth's lungs. It would take some effort to get out. After observing his surroundings for a while, he saw nothing besides a dark hole in his vision. Qin Wushuang could only give up for now. Suddenly, he remembered Bao Bao and Lone. Although he had asked Bao Bao and Lone to retreat far enough before attacking the subduing Devil Stone Tablet, the instant when the subduing Devil Stone Tablet collapsed, he felt as if the entire Heavenly Sun Mountain had collapsed. That grandeur was as if the entire Heavenly Sun Mountain had been destroyed in an instant. When he thought here, he could not help but feel concerned. He was afraid that Bao Bao and Lone had not escaped this calamity. While he was thinking, suddenly, the communication jade plate transmitted its spiritual perception. Qin Wushuang took a look and it was Bao Bao and Lone. They were fine. Qin Wushuang was overjoyed as he sent his spiritual perception. Bao Bao, Lone, I am fine. Are you guys hurt? When Bao Bao heard that Qin Wushuang was fine, he was also overjoyed at the turn of events as he said excitedly, Boss, fortunately you let us go far away. We are fine. We will dig now to save you. Boss, these mountain ruins are very hard. I want to use world walking, but I can't get in. Qin Wushuang knew that the suppressing Devil Stone Tablet was full of spiritual energy. At this moment, he could still feel the spiritual energy fluctuations around him trembling chaotically. The dense spiritual energy enveloped him, and even with the protection of the defensive wall, Qin Wushuang still felt like a ball of dough being kneaded by the spiritual energy fluctuations. It was extremely uncomfortable. However, this kind of pain was still within his tolerance range. Bao Bao, what's the situation in the outside world? Qin Wushuang asked. Bao Bao and Lone were still inside the 9 refined mysterious wind valley. They were not aware of the changes in the outside world. However, they felt that something was wrong. A doomsday-like atmosphere had already spread into the 9 refinements mysterious wind valley. Within the 9 refined mysterious wind valley, many mountain peaks and forests had been mercilessly destroyed. Every detail was filled with an apocalyptic feeling. Boss, there's something wrong outside. It seems that this stone steel is really strange. Boss, hurry and think of a way to get out. Perhaps Luo Tongtian and the others will be back soon. Lone also advised him anxiously. Boss, Bao Bao is right. Now is the best time for us to retreat. When they return, we will be surrounded. Qin Wushuang was well aware of his situation. Certainly, it would not be easy to get out in a short period of time. Immediately, he said seriously, Bao Bao Lone, listen well. Leave quickly and don't mind me. It's not too late for you to leave while the situation is chaotic. Bao Bao and Lone were both extremely anxious. It would be impossible for them to abandon Qin Wushuang and escape first. They were not people that would disregard the code of brotherhood. Qin Wushuang knew that it would not be easy to persuade these two guys. However, the situation was clear. It would be useless for them to stay. Bao Bao Lone, I'm glad to have met you two as partners. You have never abandoned me along the way. This is Qin Wushuang's good fortune. Now I know clearly that we will not get out in a short period of time. If you stay here, you will be the first to face the anger of Luo Tongtian and the others. With your current strength, you will not be able to resist them. However, if we leave and leave you here alone, even if we escape, it's meaningless to live. Boss, don't try to persuade us. If we die together. If we live together. You want to drive us away? No way. Bao Bao said with a determined tone. Qin Wushuang said urgently, Bao Bao, calm down. Listen to me. If I hide here, Zhuotianxi might not know that I am deep inside the ley lines. And you guys, you will not be able to hide from the search outside. If you stay here, it will be useless for you guys to distract me. For now, I will be safe inside. Besides, I already feel that my primordial spirit is fluctuating. I am already on the way to break through to the transformation void martial stage. I am about to break through. When I enter the transformation void martial stage, at the most crucial moment, I can consume the sky pilfered pill and forcefully advance to the profound void martial stage. Bao Bao and Lone were stunned. Qin Wushuang did not allow them to argue as he said with an angry tone, If you guys insist on staying here, then you are deliberately disturbing my mind and preventing me from training wholeheartedly. Bao Bao and Lone were speechless. If Boss had truly entered the profound void martial stage, it would be terrifying. With the graceful spiritual bow and the 5 elemental talisman of the Supreme Tao, plus the sealed scroll, he would not lack the capital to fight against the heavenly Luo Daoist sect. In the heavenly Luo Daoist sect, the strongest Luo Tongtian was only an elite warrior at the exquisite mysterious boundary stage. As long as it was not an elite warrior of the Supreme Tao, Qin Wushuang would surely have a way to deal with it within the boundary of the exquisite mysterious boundary stage. After all, when one entered the profound void martial stage, one could summon spiritual beasts at the profound mysterious boundary stage that were 2 levels higher. Bao Bao and Lone both appeared to be in a difficult situation. If they did as Boss had said, it would make sense and be a wise choice. However, it was awkward for them to abandon their boss in such a dangerous situation. Qin Wushuang struck while the iron was hot as he advised. Don't hesitate, listen to me and go. I promise you guys that I will meet you guys again alive. Bao Bao stammered. Boss, wouldn't this be too disloyal? Qin Wushuang did not know whether to laugh or cry. Now is not the time to talk about loyalty. Loyalty is not shown by throwing away one's life. The true loyalty is to make the right choice for the other party at the most crucial moment. This is the correct loyalty. A meaningless sacrifice is just a momentary impulse, not a true code of brotherhood. Although there was only a word difference between the two, the connotation was completely different. Bao Bao and Lone seemed to understand. Qin Wushuang shouted, If you guys don't go, I am going to get angry. Bao Bao said helplessly, Boss, let's go. However, after you get out, where are you going to meet us? Qin Wushuang said, We will keep in touch through the communication jade plate. Of course, you guys must stay away from the Divine Brilliance Prefecture. If possible, you guys can go to the floating snow house. It should be safer within Senior Mu Rong's territory. Bao Bao and Lone nodded with tears in their eyes. Boss, you must take care. Don't worry, my life is tough. The heavenly Luo Taoist sect has massacred my Stargaze palace. I must settle this debt with them. When Qin Wushuang mentioned this matter, he almost gnashed his teeth in anger. Boss, promise us, see you at the floating snow house. Bao Bao and Lone left while wiping their tears. Suddenly, Qin Wushuang remembered something as he sent his spiritual perception. Bao Bao, Lone, if you guys find out that the heavenly Luo Taoist sect has started to surround and search, you guys can change into your true form. Mix with the spiritual beasts of the heavenly Luo Taoist sect. I believe that after this calamity, the spiritual beasts of the heavenly Sun Mountain will also flee like a flock of bees. You guys can escape in the chaos. Bao Bao and Lone both agreed. The 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley had suffered great damage. Although Bao Bao and Lone returned the way they came, the places they passed by were in complete disorder. Indeed, in the blink of an eye, the sea had turned into mulberry fields. All the mountain peaks and forests had turned into ruins in the blink of an eye. When they arrived at the entrance of the valley with great difficulty, the guards of that pass had already escaped without a trace. Including Luo Yang, he had also escaped without a trace. As a chess piece, it was not important to find Luo Yang or not. Of course, Bao Bao and Lone would not deliberately find Luo Yang. Instead, they walked out. The more these two guys went out, the more frightened they became. Bao Bao, this time, boss has given the heavenly Luo Taoist sect a surprise. Haha, I can't even recognize this is the heavenly Sun Mountain. Although the situation was rather critical, Lone was clearly in a good mood. Bao Bao said angrily, "The heavenly Luo Taoist sect is lifting a stone and smashing it on their own feet. Who asked them to chase after boss again and again? This time boss is truly furious. Yes, to make a move on the human countries, only they could do it. The heavenly Luo Taoist sect deserved it. Let's see if the Heavenly Emperor of the Heavenly Emperor Mountain will uphold justice." However, Bao Bao said with a cold sneer, "I don't expect the Heavenly Emperor to uphold justice. If he truly wanted to, the Heavenly Luo Taoist sect would not have dared to act so presumptuously. I see that in the end, the Heavenly Luo Taoist sect will leave the matter unsettled. If that's the case, the Heavenly Emperor will not have any prestige. When the heavenly Luo Taoist sect did it, they will do it 15 times. At that time, I am afraid the human countries will fall into eternal damnation. Humph, when boss comes out, sooner or later these debts will be settled one by one. Even if the heavenly emperor does not uphold justice, boss will fight for it himself. I believe that boss has the strength, at least he has the potential." On this issue, Lone agreed with Bao Bao. Yes, what damn heavenly emperor? When boss is strong enough, he should pull down the heavenly emperor and become the heavenly emperor himself. By that time, let's see who would dare to make boss suffer. Whatever heavenly Luo Taoist sect, I will turn them into ashes with one slap. While these two were talking, they approached the Sea of Bamboo courtyard. Looking from afar, Lone cried out bitterly, "The Sea of Bamboo courtyard is also gone? Not to mention the Sea of Bamboo courtyard, have you seen the Wolf Ivory Peak?" Bao Bao asked Lone with a bitter smile. "Haha, powerful, too powerful. This time, boss has done it thoroughly. The headquarters of the heavenly Luo Taoist sect is destroyed. Haha, think about it. When Luo Tongtian returns and finds his headquarters destroyed, would his nose become crooked from anger? I really want to enjoy his expression at that time." These two discussed while rejoicing in other people's misfortune. When they thought about the destruction of the heavenly Luo Taoist sect's giant foundation and how they had been chased by the heavenly Luo Taoist sect, they felt extremely satisfied. Small correction, there is a small clerical error in chapter 555. Luo Tongtian is at the peak of the common mysterious stage. He is not at the peak of the profound mysterious stage. The common mysterious stage is the highest stage beneath the supreme Tao stage. There are only two stages in the exquisite mysterious stage, the profound mysterious stage and the common mysterious stage. I am deeply sorry for disturbing everyone's reading. Also, I recommend a book called 100 Refinements to Immortals to everyone. This book is famous for a long time. I have also read it and it's good. It also has a lot of words and is rich enough. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please log on to www.chidian.com. More chapters, support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 551. In this disaster, the heavenly Luo Daoist sect had suffered heavy casualties. Especially the Wolf Ivory Peak, it had collapsed instantly. 7 or 8 out of 10 core disciples had died. No less than 30 people had survived. Similarly, many of them had died while training in other places with abundant spiritual qi. Inside and outside the main building complex of the heavenly Luo Daoist sect, there were 8 layers of formation mechanisms. All of them had received the spiritual qi from the subduing devil stone tablet. When that stone tablet had been destroyed, the disorder of the spiritual qi had caused the formation to activate simultaneously. Like the explosion of a super bomb, all the buildings had been razed to the ground almost instantly. Fortunately, the collapse of this building complex was not as fast as the Wolf Ivory Peak. Thus, many people in this main building complex had luckily escaped with their lives. Among them, of course, Zhuoleng Shuang, the 4th Tao warrior, held the most honorable position. Zhuoleng Shuang counted the number of people. There were 100 or 200 that had escaped with their lives. Besides 7 or 8 higher-ups, the rest were guardian disciples. Although they were not the top talents in the heavenly Luo Daoist sect, they were the core power. Besides Zhuoleng Shuang, among the 7 higher-ups, 2 were Shakyamuni and 5 were elders. They had all stayed to guard the heavenly Luo Daoist sect. 4th Tao warrior, about half of the higher-ups in this main palace building complex had died. The Sea of Bamboo Courtyard and the Wolf Ivory Peak had been completely destroyed. The one that had spoken was Shakyamuni Chong Guang. Initially, he should have been guarding the Sea of Bamboo Courtyard. At this moment, he also felt extremely fortunate. Fortunately, he had been temporarily transferred to guard the main palace. Or else, if he had stayed at the Sea of Bamboo Courtyard, not even his corpse would have been found. Zhuoleng Shuang's expression had turned ugly. In this main palace building complex, besides each main palace, it also included the Hidden Scriptures Pavilion, the Weapon Crafting Pavilion, the Alchemy Pavilion, the Talisman Pavilion, and the Material Warehouse. All of them had been destroyed. None of the elders in charge of guarding these buildings had escaped. Is there any news from other places? For now, only the Sea of Bamboo Courtyard and the Wolf Ivory Peak that were close have received news. The other disciples that had been sent to scout have not returned. With a gloomy expression, Zhuoleng Shuang's mind had finally cleared up a little. Fortunately, many of the sect's elites were carrying out missions outside the sect during this great calamity. At least, they had ensured that those higher-ups had not suffered any harm. A portion of the particularly outstanding core disciples also followed their respective masters to carry out missions. Finally, some of the future bloodlines were preserved. The ones that suffered the greatest losses were naturally those core disciples of the Wolf Ivory Peak. At this moment, more and more disciples rushed over from the south side of the Sea of Bamboo Courtyard. These disciples all looked extremely panicked. 4th Tao Sovereign, Tao Master. When Zhuoleng Shuang saw these people, his heart was somewhat comforted. He hurriedly asked, "Are you all okay? How's the situation at Wolf Ivory Peak?" These were the lucky ones who had escaped from the Wolf Ivory Peak. The reason why they were able to escape with their lives was that they were closer to the foot of the mountain and had just managed to avoid this calamity. Counting the heads, there were only 26 of them. Zhuolengshuang looked in that direction disappointedly and asked, "Just you guys, are there no more?" A core disciple stepped forward. "Fourth Tao Sovereign, those who could have escaped have all escaped. We searched the area for a while. There shouldn't be anyone there." Zhuolengshuang felt as if his heart was being cut by a knife. Looking at the remaining 26 people, he reluctantly squeezed out a smile. "Very good. Remember, no matter what, you have to be strong and face everything. The Heavenly Luo Daoist sect will not collapse due to any natural disasters. In the future, you guys will be the hope of the Heavenly Luo Daoist sect." Although these 26 core disciples had not recovered from the shock of the calamity, at least they were still alive. At least, to the Heavenly Luo Daoist sect, they would be even more precious. In this closed training, there were 120 core disciples. Only 26 escaped. Shakyamuni Chongguang also wanted to cry but had no tears. Usually, he was the one in charge of the training of the core disciples. He also had deep feelings for these core disciples. Now, when he saw that only 20 or 30 of them had returned and the other familiar faces were separated by life and death, he could not help but feel somewhat sad. Fortunately, this time, the head Tao Sovereign intended to train a group of the best core disciples and took away 20 of them to carry out the mission. At this time, Shakyamuni Chongguang could only comfort himself with the good news. One after another, scouts from different places came back to report. The Violet Deer Mountain has collapsed. For now, no disciples have been found alive. Everything is the same at the Peach Blossom Stream. There are no movements. Various faults have appeared in the Tiger Tail Stream, and a giant hole has appeared. The area around the mountain entrance has been completely destroyed and turned into ruins. These places were the more important strongholds of the Heavenly Sun Mountain, but their situations were different. Zhuolengshuang listened carefully. When he heard about the area around the mountain entrance, he raised his eyebrows. Shakyamuni Jinsu, quickly bring 2 elders and 10 core disciples to the mountain entrance. You must guard it with your life. Don't let even a fly out. Shakyamuni Jinsu accepted the order and picked 2 elders and 10 core disciples who had just escaped from the Wolf Ivory Peak to rush to the mountain entrance. Shakyamuni Chongguang said, "Fourth Tao Sovereign, isn't it too late to send them to the mountain entrance now?" "Sigh, maybe it is a little late, but we have to do our best. When the head Tao Sovereign comes back and finds out that we did nothing, how do you think we should endure his thunderous fury?" Shakyamuni Chongguang nodded silently. In the current situation, they had to treat a dead horse as if it were still alive. Even if it was just for show, they had to show it to the head Tao Sovereign. Shakyamuni Chongguang, is there still no news from the 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley? Zhuolengshuang could not help but ask. He was now more concerned about the 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley. Until now, he still could not be sure if there was a problem with the subduing Devil Stone Tablet. Fourth Tao Sovereign, I have specially sent 2 fast and quick-witted disciples to investigate the 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley. I believe that there will be news soon. Before Shakyamuni Chongguang could finish his words, someone shouted from afar. The voice sounded flustered and exasperated. "Fourth Tao Sovereign, Fourth Tao Sovereign. It's Luo Zhen." Shakyamuni Chongguang and Zhuolengshuang looked at each other and felt a bad premonition in their hearts. Without a doubt, there was only one result for Luo Zhen to come here. Something had really happened to the subduing Devil Stone Tablet. Luo Zhen almost sprinted over at full speed. When he saw the main hall in ruins, he only felt dizzy and almost couldn't control himself from vomiting blood. "Tao Sovereign!" Luo Zhen cried. "Luo Zhen, what happened? Did something happen to the 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley?" Zhuolengshuang asked with a very strict tone. Luo Zhen's head was a bit dizzy and he didn't answer Zhuolengshuang's question. Instead, he looked around as if he was looking for something among the core disciples. Shakyamuni Chongguang naturally knew what he was looking for. He sighed. Elder Zhen, your grandson is not among the group that escaped from the Wolf Ivory Peak. When Luo Zhen heard that the Wolf Ivory Peak was destroyed, his heart sank. When he heard that a portion of the core disciples escaped, he couldn't help but have some hope. When he heard Shakyamuni Chongguang say that his precious grandson was not among the group, he almost fainted from anger. Zhuoleng slightly raised his arm and a cold light shot onto Luo Zhen's body, forcefully stabilizing his emotions. He asked in a deep voice, Elder Luo Zhen, let me ask you, did something happen to the 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley? Luo Zhen sobbed, nodded and shook his head. He had a crazy expression and cursed, Luo Yang, it was all done by that bastard Luo Yang. Elder Luo Yang? Zhuoleng and Shakyamuni Chongguang were both shocked. Are you talking about Elder Luo Yang? Of course it's him. He brought a group of followers to the 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley. None of the guarding disciples in front dared to stop him. He arrived at my pass. When I told him to come back after the Qingming festival, he turned against me on the spot. He said that he wanted to refine the spiritual inheritance pill and lacked one ingredient, so he insisted on entering the 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley. I did not allow it, but he did not hesitate to threaten me, saying that he would go to the Wolf Ivory Peak to plot against my eldest grandson. Luo Zhen cried and shouted as he recounted the situation. When he reached the end, he beat his chest and stamped his feet. It was obvious that his emotions were on the verge of collapse. The more Zhuoleng listened, the more shocked he became. His brows furrowed even more, and black lines appeared on his forehead. Shakyamuni Chongguang also smiled bitterly and shook his head. Luo Zhen, you are too muddle-headed. How could you let him in? Luo Zhen refuted. Luo Yang did not go in, he only sent 5 followers in. After the incident, he ran away immediately. Seeing that he was still quibbling, Zhuoleng angrily shouted, Shut up! You still care about your grandson at this time? You are the only one with a grandson? Of those dead disciples, which one of them was not raised by their parents? Luo Zhen, if this incident really happened in the 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley, you will be a great sinner for all eternity. Zhuoleng was unable to restrain his anger. With a sweep of his sleeve, a gust of wind blew, and Luo Zhen was sent flying dozens of feet away like a kite with a broken string. Shakyamuni Chongguang saw that Zhuoleng still wanted to attack, and hurriedly advised, Dao warrior, although Luo Zhen is guilty, we cannot kill him now. When head Dao warrior returns, we still have to explain. Zhuoleng said angrily, Detain him first. When head Dao warrior returns, punish him. Chongguang, that Luo Yang could not have gone far. Bring some people and pursue Luo Yang within the Heavenly Sun Mountain area. Yes. Shakyamuni Chongguang also knew that capturing Luo Yang was the only way for them to escape. Otherwise, none of them would be able to escape responsibility. When head Dao warrior returns, even if they did not die, they would lose a layer of skin. After Shakyamuni Chongguang had left, the disciples that had escaped from the 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley arrived one after another. When these people saw that Luo Zhen had been detained, their hearts raced and they were also extremely nervous. Zhuoleng interrogated them one by one. Everyone's tone was the same and they all pointed at Luo Yang. Zhuoleng said to the remaining 2 elders, Go investigate how many direct and collateral relatives Luo Yang has in the heavenly Luo Daoist sect. Bring all the living ones here. Yes, after the great calamity, the entire heavenly Luo Daoist sect finally had some clues. Currently, Bao Bao and Lone were also running towards the entrance of the heavenly Sun Mountain. Another book, an old author with a good reputation. Book title: Super Immortal Doctor Advertisement. He was a rookie school doctor at the Yong City University Hospital. He had just graduated and stepped into society. He was an immortal doctor with superb medical skills and had saved countless lives. He was proficient in both Western and Chinese medicine. When two completely different identities appeared on the same person, what kind of sparks would it create? To be continued. If you want to know the future, please log on to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 552. Indeed, as Qin Wushuang had expected, all the spiritual beasts inside the heavenly Sun Mountain that had escaped with their lives rushed towards the outside. Apparently, these spiritual beasts that had lived in the heavenly Sun Mountain for a long time did not know what was going on when they encountered such a great calamity. Their first reaction was to run for their lives. They would run as far away as possible from the heavenly Sun Mountain. Bao Bao and Lone mixed among these spiritual beasts and did not reveal themselves. When they arrived at the entrance, they discovered that although the entrance had been destroyed, they had set up a defensive line. Shakyamuni Jin Su had led the 2 profound void martial stage elders and 10 core disciples to set up a defensive line. When they saw a large group of spiritual beasts rushing towards the outside of the heavenly Sun Mountain, of course, Shakyamuni Jin Su and the 2 elders would not allow them to pass through the pass. Being an elite warrior at the perfect void martial stage, Shakyamuni Jin Su held a high position in the heavenly Luo Daoist sect. He was definitely one of the top 10 elite warriors. Holding a giant spiked club in his hand, he had the temperament of one man holding the pass against 10,000 enemies. At least a few hundred spiritual beasts rolled over. When they saw Shakyamuni Jin Su blocking the pass, all of them started to make a racket and roared to show off their power. "Where are you guys going? Go away, we are leaving this place. Get lost, don't block the way. Your heavenly Luo Daoist sect can't even protect yourselves, why are you getting involved in our business?" Among these spiritual beasts, many elite warriors could also speak the human language. Clearly, they were annoyed when they saw Shakyamuni Jin Su blocking the way. "Everyone, the heavenly Luo Daoist sect, and you guys have settled down at the heavenly Sun Mountain. Before the calamity, we should share the burden." Shakyamuni Jin Su spread out his spiritual chi deliberately to form an aura to intimidate these spiritual beasts. Among these spiritual beasts, there were many at the profound void martial stage. Some even possessed the power to aim for the perfect void martial stage. Of course, they would not be intimidated by Shakyamuni Jin Su's temperament. A Tiger King at the profound void martial stage sneered, "Sharing the burden of the calamity, where are the benefits? How could the heavenly Luo Daoist sect monopolize the benefits?" "That's right, you are Shakyamuni Jin Su, we know you. You have good strength. But do you think that you guys can stop the charge of all of us spiritual beasts?" Shakyamuni Jin Su was not confident at all. He could handle a few profound void martial stage spirit beasts. If these hundreds of spirit beasts were to swarm him at the same time, he would not be able to stop them all by himself. Apart from the 2 great elders, the other core disciples did not possess absolute killing power at the moment. Normally, these spirit beasts would not be able to leave the 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley and the Wolf Ivory Peak. This was because every place had mechanical seals that restricted the spirit beast. However, once the devil-suppressing stone tablet fell, all of the mechanisms were automatically destroyed. It no longer had any restraining power towards these spirit beasts. Therefore, these spirit beasts had found an opportunity to be free, so how could they miss it? "Golden Beard, if you insist on stopping us, don't blame us for being rude." These beasts were extremely agitated at this moment. Obviously, the fear of the catastrophe and the yearning for freedom made them very irritable. It was as if he was about to turn hostile at the slightest disagreement. Shakyamuni Jin Su hastily sent a message to Zhuolong Shuang, requesting his assistance. Zhuoleng Shuang drew a breath of cold air when he heard that a few hundred spiritual beasts were charging at the same time. He ordered, "Stop them, you must stop them." Shakyamuni Jinsu was also annoyed. Stop them? It was easier said than done. Who could stop these few hundred spiritual beasts when they rushed over like a flood? In the worst-case scenario, the 10 core disciples and even the 2 elders would lose their lives because of it. He looked back and saw that although the 2 great elders were forcing themselves to remain calm, those 10 core disciples had a pale complexion. Although they had tried their best to hide their fear, one could see the distress in their hearts from their eyes. Apparently, they had just escaped from a great disaster. Now they had encountered such a situation. Naturally, they did not have any confidence, not to mention having a high fighting spirit. Shakyamuni Jinsu held the wolf ivory club tightly and was about to speak. Suddenly, Elder Luo Shu sent a message from behind him. Shakyamuni Jinsu, those core disciples are on the verge of a mental breakdown. They cannot resist at all. They could not even withstand the first wave of attacks. Bao Bao and Lone shouted among the group of beasts, "Everyone, let's go. This golden beard is stalling for time. If we don't go, when those elite warriors of the heavenly Luo Daoist sect return, we will not be able to leave. Go, if we don't go, we will die. If we go, everyone will have hope to regain their freedom. Could it be that you want to stay at the heavenly Sun Mountain forever and be enslaved by the heavenly Luo Daoist sect? Go, go." Indeed, the emotions of the beasts were on the verge of exploding. Any little provocation could completely stimulate these emotions. Indeed, under the encouragement of Bao Bao and Lone, all the beasts swarmed forward like a tide breaking through the dam. Each of these beasts were smart as they avoided the direction of Shakyamuni Jinsu. Like a flood, they split into 2 groups and rushed forward. Shakyamuni Jinsu gripped the wolf ivory club tightly and made up his mind. "Don't move, let them pass." At this crucial moment, Shakyamuni Jinsu still suppressed his fighting spirit. He knew that once he made a move, he would be able to kill many of the beasts with his strength. However, even if he could kill 10 or 20 of them, it would be insignificant to these few hundred spiritual beasts. However, when this wave of attacks came, certainly none of the 10 core disciples would survive. The current heavenly Luo Daoist sect could no longer afford to sacrifice them. Shakyamuni Jinsu gripped the wolf ivory club and gritted his teeth. He looked at the group of beasts rushing forward like the tide. Since the heavenly Luo Daoist sect did not take the initiative to attack, of course, the beasts would not seek trouble. In the end, the battle between the 2 sides that was on the verge of breaking out had ended without any losses. Elder Luo Shu walked up and said in a low voice, "Shakyamuni, if you will be punished for letting them go, I am willing to bear it with you." Another elder, Luo Meng, also walked over. "Count me in." Those 10 core disciples all walked over with a face full of shame and gratitude. Although it was inconvenient for them to say thank you, inwardly, they were extremely grateful to Shakyamuni Jinsu. If he did not give the order, they must stop them. Even if it was a mantis trying to stop a chariot, or an egg hitting a rock, they must carry it out. It was because this was an order. The heavenly Luo Daoist sect had strict discipline. As long as they were still breathing, they must carry out the order. However, once they tried to stop them, the result was obvious. Before a few hundred ferocious spiritual beasts, they did not have the slightest room to resist. They would only end up being torn into pieces. Thus, when Shakyamuni Jinsu ordered them not to resist, in fact, he had saved their lives. However, to Shakyamuni Jinsu, it was equivalent to disobeying the order of the 4th Tao warrior. While Qin Wushuang was inside that deep abyss, the movements of the spiritual qi around him did not show the slightest sign of slowing down. On the contrary, it became more intense and kept pressing down on his defensive wall. He felt as if he was a lone boat drifting in the vast sea. However, at the same time that these movements of spiritual qi pressed down on Qin Wushuang, it also allowed Qin Wushuang to experience the so-called training environment with high spiritual qi purity. This sealed space was like a can of spiritual energy that had trapped him inside. However, this can of spiritual energy contained an unimaginable purity and density of spiritual energy that the outside world could not imagine. Qin Wushuang had never seen or heard of such spiritual qi environment. At first, Qin Wushuang activated his own strength to resist the spiritual qi that was gushing from all directions. However, the more he resisted, the more Qin Wushuang realized that the movements of these spiritual qi were getting more and more intense. He decided to change his method, which was to guide and unblock the spiritual qi. What Qin Wushuang did not expect was that the effect of this method was surprisingly good. Under his guidance, these rich spiritual qi started to fuse with his dantian. This fusion made his primordial spirit grow stronger and stronger. It was like a silkworm that was spitting silk. As the silk was spat out, the cocoon that was formed also became bigger and bigger. At this moment, Qin Wushuang's primordial spirit was exactly the same. A familiar feeling made Qin Wushuang's divine sense suddenly come up with an exciting idea. He was about to break through. Sure enough, when the spiritual qi that was gushing from all directions continued to fuse and nurture in Qin Wushuang's dantian, it pushed his primordial spirit to a new realm and height. The transformation void realm. Finally, it had arrived slowly. A wave of warm current flowed around Qin Wushuang's body and made him feel extremely comfortable. Above the refined void realm was the transformation void realm. Although it was only a small breakthrough in the void martial stage, to Qin Wushuang, it was a major hurdle in his life, especially at such a critical moment. Perhaps one stage and one level of strength meant the difference between life and death. Qin Wushuang enjoyed the pleasure brought by the breakthrough. The spiritual qi inside his body had supported his primordial spirit and allowed Qin Wushuang to experience the miraculous state of the transformation void martial stage. At this moment, Qin Wushuang threw all his worries to the back of his mind. He must seize the opportunity to consolidate the transformation void martial stage. Especially in this current environment where the spiritual qi was abundant, an extra bit of hard work would mean a heavy harvest. Indeed, this environment with abundant spiritual qi was the most special reward for Qin Wushuang. It was a blessing in disguise. It seems that this subduing devil stone tablet is the place with the most abundant spiritual qi in the heavenly Sun Mountain. It's strange that there is such a huge difference between the spiritual qi in the heavenly Sun Mountain. The spiritual qi movements beneath the subduing devil stone tablet had brought great shock to Qin Wushuang. He could not believe that there was a place with such abundant spiritual qi in the world. Every trace of air in this place seemed to be filled with spiritual qi. It was simply a paradise on earth. However, he did not know that the place where the subduing devil stone tablet was located was the remains of an ancient battlefield. It was the eye of a seal, the eye of the spiritual source that connected to the ley lines. This meant that the harvest had helped Qin Wushuang achieve a perfect breakthrough. One must say that the fortune was miraculous. Gains and losses could not be predicted. The instant when the subduing devil stone tablet collapsed and when Qin Wushuang was sucked in by that wave of power, he was certain that he would die. How could he have known that it would be like this? If one survives a great disaster, there will be good fortune in the future. These words suddenly appeared in Qin Wushuang's mind. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 553. These words were the best description of Qin Wushuang ever since he had stepped onto the path of martial arts. The first time he had escaped death was in the cave at the Green Jade Mountain, which was the first circle of the 7 deadly formation arrays. At that time, he had fallen into that giant pit under the siege of many elite warriors from the Heavenly Lake Empire. He thought he would die for sure. In the end, he had received a great fortune, the 7 deadly formation arrays. Since then, he had started his legendary journey in the Tianxian land. Amid the chaos, Qin Wushuang felt as if he had returned to his mother's body. That feeling was marvelous and wonderful. After Qin Wushuang had entered the transformation void martial stage, that defensive wall had automatically strengthened. The temperature and comfort inside had made Qin Wushuang feel as if he had returned to the chaos. And Qin Wushuang's dantian was also absorbing the spiritual qi from all directions at a neither fast nor slow pace. Although absorbing spiritual qi was no longer the main way to increase one's stage after reaching the void martial stage, in the end, the improvement of the primordial spirit was still the refinement of the dantian. Qin Wushuang enjoyed this feeling. Muddle-headed, he felt as if he had truly returned to his mother's body, regardless of the changes in the outside world. How could Qin Wushuang know that the richness of the spiritual qi in his current environment was a few dozen times more than the outside world? If he trained here, he could increase his speed by at least 5 times. Of course, Qin Wushuang also knew that it would be impossible to train to the profound void martial stage here. It was because in order to increase the primordial spirit, in addition to the accumulation of quantity, he also needed to rely on actual combat. In addition to accumulation, the training of the void martial stage also required comprehension. However, with such a superior environment, of course Qin Wushuang would not let go of it. Even if he could not become a fatty in one bite, under such environment, he could refine his dantian and lay a solid foundation for his advancement to the profound void martial stage. Especially when Qin Wushuang planned to use the sky-pilfered pill to break through to the profound void martial stage, this environment was essential. Although the sky-pilfering pill was heaven-defying, in the end, it was still a method of forcefully entering the profound void realm through excessive enthusiasm. To put it bluntly, it was still a bit of a trick. In essence, it went against the natural way of the universe. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been named the sky-pilfering pill. However, if Qin Wushuang was here to build a solid foundation for his body and dantian, then when he used the sky-pilfering pill, it wouldn't be so abrupt. Everything would fall into place naturally. At that time, the sky-pilfering pill would no longer be an excessive push, but a guide like adding flowers to a brocade. After Qin Wushuang understood this, he became even more confident in his cultivation. He also knew that for the time being, he did not need to worry about the outside world. Even if Luo Tongtian and the others had rushed back to the heavenly Luo Daoist sect, they would not discover his existence for a while. In this place, he did not know what kind of position he was in. Bao Bao could not use the underground technique to come in. Although Luo Tongtian was an elite warrior at the exquisite mysterious boundary stage, he might not have the divine skill to move the mountains and split the earth. Most importantly, Luo Tongtian would not have guessed that Qin Wushuang was still hiding here. Now I only hope that Bao Bao and the others have successfully escaped. As long as Bao Bao and the others have successfully escaped, I can stay here and train without any distractions. Until I have the confidence to enter the profound void martial stage. When he thought about Bao Bao and the others, Bao Bao's message arrived. Boss, we already rushed out of the heavenly sun mountain amidst the chaos. Haha, you have the foresight. Indeed, the heavenly Luo Daoist sect has already started to obstruct us. However, when a few hundred spiritual beasts charged over, they did not dare to stop us. Haha. We have successfully broken through. Now we are heading towards the direction of the floating snow house. Boss, you must be careful. Don't worry. Qin Wushuang only gave a concise and powerful answer. After 2 days, the higher-ups of the heavenly Luo Daoist sect scattered in different places also returned to the heavenly Sun Mountain. The first higher-up to return was not Luo Tongtian, but the second Dao warrior, Luo Henji. At the heavenly Emperor Mountain, in the end, Luo Henji could not persuade the Sound of Thunder sect and the heavenly Punishing Villa to send elite warriors of the Supreme Dao to help. The Divine Brilliance Prefecture was extremely close to the heavenly Emperor Mountain. Thus, Luo Henji was the first higher-up to return. However, not long after he had returned, Luo Tongtian had also returned. Next, Tian Mingshan, the third Dao warrior, had returned. The gathering of the 4 Dao warriors had instantly made the entire heavenly Luo Daoist sect feel much more reassured. The morale that had fallen to the bottom had also been boosted. On the 3rd and 4th day, the Shakyamuni and elders from different places had also returned. After the great calamity, the entire heavenly Sun Mountain had regained some vitality. Only, the main building complex of the heavenly Luo Daoist sect had been completely destroyed. Fortunately, Zhuoleng Shuang had quickly mobilized all the surviving powerhouses in the past few days to build simple structures in the empty space. After a few days of work, they had built a simple temporary shelter. However, Zhuoleng Shuang's little actions did not make Luo Tongtian feel the slightest gratified. Ever since Luo Tongtian had returned, he had never looked Zhuoleng Shuang in the eye. Zhuoleng Shuang's heart was beating rapidly, yet he did not dare to speak. The group of higher-ups sat on the stone bench. For the first time after the great calamity, all of them sat together. The atmosphere at the scene was extremely gloomy and depressing. Especially Zhuoleng Shuang and the other elite warriors that had stayed behind, they could not even raise their heads under everyone's questioning gaze. Although they also had a belly full of grievances, this was the truth. Sometimes the reason was not important. Since the result was already like this, for sure the ones that had stayed behind, were the ones that were the easiest to blame. Fourth, tell us, what is going on? Luo Tongtian finally spoke with a gloomy face. In fact, Zhuoleng Shuang was crying out for injustice inwardly. No one could change this matter, no matter who had stayed behind to guard the door. Only, he was unlucky to have run into such a troublesome matter. Head Dao warrior, we have already investigated clearly. The subduing Devil Stone tablet had been completely destroyed. All the mechanisms and formations that were connected to the subduing Devil Stone tablet had exploded. I know all of this, I am asking for the reason. Without any warning, Luo Tongtian roared loudly and opened his eyes widely. I want the reason. Zhuoleng Shuang felt wronged. The reason, you have to ask Luo Zhen. With a wave of his hand, someone had already escorted Luo Zhen over. Luo Zhen's eyes were lifeless as he walked numbly. When he saw Luo Tongtian and the others, he did not salute nor speak. He only grinned foolishly, dead, all dead. Haha, it's good that they are all dead. I don't want to live anymore. After scolding, he suddenly fell to the ground and cried loudly. This Luo Zhen could not accept such an unforeseen event and had directly gone crazy. He had spent all his efforts, worked so hard and diligently in this life, all for the sake of cultivating his eldest grandson. In the end, it was all for naught. Unable to bear such a shock, Luo Zhen had completely gone crazy. Luo Tongtian frowned and stared at Zhuoleng Shuang. You want a lunatic to give me the answer? Zhuoleng Shuang stammered. How did he go crazy? He was fine before. He must be pretending to be crazy. Luo Zhen, don't pretend to be crazy. Luo Tongtian was impatient. He waved his hand. He is crazy, but you are not. Do you want me to invite you before you tell me the whole story? Zhuoleng Shuang was drenched in cold sweat. He hurriedly said that he did not dare. He repeated what Luo Zhen had told him in detail, without missing a single word, and without any exaggeration. So, it's Luo Yang's doing? Luo Tongtian asked indifferently. Then, have you caught Luo Yang in these 3 days? Zhuoleng Shuang turned to look at Shakyamuni Chongguang and answered, Shakyamuni Chongguang is in charge of capturing Luo Yang. Chongguang, you tell the head Dao warrior. Shakyamuni Chongguang said, I haven't stopped at all these 3 days. All his relatives, direct relatives and collateral relatives, as long as they are not dead, I have caught them. Only Luo Yang was not caught. Could it be that he has already escaped from the Heavenly Sun Mountain? Tian Mingshan, the third Dao warrior who had been silent all this while, suddenly spoke. Zhuoleng Shuang flatly denied. It's impossible for him to be so fast. Once something happened here. I sent Shakyamuni Jin Su to block the entrance and exit of the Heavenly Sun Mountain after we met with the higher-ups. Jin Su, after you went to guard the entrance, did you let anyone out? Luo Tongtian turned to ask. Shakyamuni Jin Su vowed solemnly. I dare to guarantee that not a single person has left. Zhuoleng Shuang said, Jin Su, why are you still lying at this moment? Weren't you the one who ordered the release of those few hundred spirit beasts? Everyone's gaze was focused on Shakyamuni Jin Su. Shakyamuni Jin Su knew that Zhuoleng Shuang would definitely push the blame to him. After all, at this moment, everyone wanted to shirk the responsibility. However, he was very calm, and did not even blink his eyes. Yes, I ordered the release of those spirit beasts. Fourth Dao warrior, you know that under that kind of situation, I only need to say a word to stop them. Those spirit beasts are not a threat to my life at all. Whether I can stop them or not, I only need to say a word to give the order. Then why didn't you give the order? Zhuoleng Shuang asked coldly. I gave the order? If I gave the order, I would have pushed those 10 core disciples into the fire pit. I can protect myself, what about them? Could they have stopped a wave of attacks from a few hundred spirit beasts? Shakyamuni Jin Su asked angrily. Under that situation, even if I had given the order to stop them, besides sending these core disciples to their deaths, I could not have stopped the surging momentum of the group of beasts. Please forgive me for asking, at that time, what were you doing? Zhuoleng Shuang gave a cold sneer. You sure know how to be a good person. In the heavenly Luo Daoist sect, military orders must be obeyed. I asked you to stop them, and you did not carry it out. Instead, you are asking me? Fourth Dao warrior, let me ask you, at that time, what was the difference between stopping them and not stopping them? Could it have stopped the surging tide of hundreds of ferocious beasts? Could it be you don't know that military orders are more important than life and death? Zhuoleng Shuang asked back. Shakyamuni Jin Su said angrily, I only know that at this time, the heavenly Luo Daoist sect cannot afford to die. The Wolf Ivory Mountain had lost hundreds of core disciples. If we had lost those 10 core disciples, where would the heavenly Luo Daoist sect go, and who would support us in the future? Luo Tongtian glared at these two coldly. Are you still not done arguing? Keep arguing. Shakyamuni Jin Su said loudly, Head Dao warrior, I have lived for a few hundred years and would not hesitate to die. If you want to take responsibility, I will not complain even if you cut off my head now. However, there are some words that I must say. What do you want to say? Luo Tongtian asked coldly. I want to say that for that little matter of the human countries, there was no need to bring the entire heavenly Luo Daoist sect into it. For this matter, from the beginning, we should not have invested so much. If all the elite warriors of the heavenly Luo Daoist sect were inside the mountain gate, I believe that such a thing would never have happened. These words were extremely bold and had directly challenged Luo Tongtian's authority. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please log on to www.chidian.com. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 554. As soon as Shakyamuni Jinsu spoke these words, besides Luo Tongtian, everyone's complexion changed. They all felt that Shakyamuni Jinsu was being too bold. In the heavenly Luo Taoist sect, when someone openly questioned the decision of the head Tao warrior, it was a challenge to his authority. Luo Tongtian's face turned gloomy as a black line emerged on his forehead. He sized Shakyamuni Jinsu up with a cold gaze. "This way, you are blaming us for making such a big fuss, right?" Shakyamuni Jinsu knew Luo Tongtian's personality well. He knew that today's matter would not end well. However, since he had made up his mind, he was fearless as he said with a neither servile nor overbearing tone, "In the beginning, this matter was not the fault of the head Tao warrior. In fact, the entire sect had spoiled Luo Ting too much. It had caused him to become undisciplined and out of control. He could not accept any setbacks. He had left the sect secretly to deal with a young man from the human countries. For this matter, from the beginning, we had lost. Even if Luo Ting had killed that Qin Wushuang, what could he have won? Besides ruining his own reputation and establishing his own narrow-minded image, what else could he have gained? Not to mention, he could not kill that Qin Wushuang and got killed by him." These words resonated with many people inwardly. However, they could only think about it inwardly as no one dared to show it. Continue. Luo Tongtian was expressionless. Inwardly, Zhuoleng Shuang was feeling proud. The more Shakyamuni Jinsu acted like this, the more advantageous it would be for him. It was equivalent to Shakyamuni Jinsu asking for trouble. Although Luo Ting had exceptional talent and was ranked number 1 among all the core disciples, what was the result? In the end, he was killed. What does this mean? When choosing an heir, not only must we pay attention to talent, we must also pay attention to the nurturing of character and intelligence. If Luo Ting had a slightly more open mind, how could he not know how to make the choice? How could he not be able to extricate himself from a groundless engagement? When Shakyamuni Jinsu spoke up to hear, he stopped for a moment. For such an heir, it would not matter if he died. To avenge him, it would be inappropriate to mobilize more than half of the elite force of the heavenly Luo Taoist sect. Could it be that the entire heavenly Luo Taoist sect is as young and reckless as Luo Ting? His words were actually very reasonable, especially for those who had personally experienced the pursuit of Qin Wushuang. They felt that there was no reason for this matter. After working hard for half a year, they had gained nothing. Instead, their nest had been destroyed. This kind of defeat was simply losing on both sides, losing in a complete mess. Luo Tongtian sneered as he stared at Shakyamuni Jinsu. "You are eloquent, you have your own thoughts, you have depth and your mind is flexible. But why didn't you say these words before we set off? Now that you're making empty promises, do you think you can show off how smart you are?" Shakyamuni Jinsu said loudly, "Head Tao warrior, if you say so, don't blame me for offending you. May I ask, with your personality, will you listen to what your subordinate says? If you were someone who could listen to advice, you wouldn't have made such a choice." Once these words were spoken, everyone present was truly shocked. Zhuoleng Shuang slapped the table and stood up as he saw the opportunity. "Damn you, Jinsu, you are looking down on the authority of the head Tao warrior and slandering him for being narrow-minded." Jinsu glared at Zhuoleng Shuang and said fearlessly, "Fourth Tao warrior, don't put on airs. After the incident, you know better than anyone what kind of attitude you had. You commanded this and that. What did you do? Besides hiding here, I didn't see you go to the 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley to investigate, nor did I see you step out. To destroy the subdued soul stone tablet, you must have used a supreme Tao technique. You are afraid of that elite warrior of the supreme Tao, who doesn't know your intentions. If you are afraid of death, then don't sit in that position. If you sit in that position, don't be afraid of death. Since you are afraid of death, you still want to drive others to their deaths. What are your intentions?" Zhuoleng Shuang's complexion turned green and white as he said angrily, "You are slandering me." When second Dao warrior Luo Henji saw the situation getting out of control, he immediately stepped out to mediate. "Enough, enough! What's the use of you guys arguing until your face turns red? Can you make up for the situation? Is it fun to shift the responsibility? Head Dao warrior, can I speak a few words?" Inwardly, Luo Tongtian was extremely furious. If all these people were not present, he would have killed Shakyamuni Jin Su on the spot. He suppressed the anger in his heart and said, "Speak." Luo Henji said, "Jin Su, let's make an assumption. If this matter was truly caused by Luo Yang, even if all of us were at the mountain gate, I am afraid we could not change the current situation. Besides, if we had not mobilized the main force, most likely the casualties would have been even more severe." Shakyamuni Jin Su nodded. "Second Dao warrior's assumption is reasonable. My words were to disregard this matter. I always think that if the heavenly Luo Daoist sect wants to develop, there is no need to care about some minor gains and losses. Like Luo Ting's engagement. Okay, don't speak anymore. Everyone knows what you mean." Luo Henji was worried that if he continued to speak, the head Dao warrior would act out on the spot. In fact, he was also protecting Shakyamuni Jin Su by stopping him. Regardless of the motive for this trip, the result could be said to be a great fortune amidst the misfortune. If everyone was here, I am sure that the number of casualties would have been much higher than now. Based on this assumption, I feel that regardless of who stayed here, most likely they would not have been able to stop this matter from happening. Thus, in fact, it is a secondary matter to pursue the responsibility. Now, the most important thing is to catch the murderer and rebuild the heavenly Luo Daoist sect. Indeed, these two matters were the most important. In comparison, it was not important to pursue the responsibility of who was responsible. Besides continuing to expand the internal strife, there would be no gains. Tian Mingshan also nodded. Second Dao warrior's words are reasonable. Honestly, if I was the one guarding here, I am afraid this matter would not have happened. It's because this was an unexpected situation and no one could have predicted it. Zhuoleng Shuang looked at Luo Henji and Tian Mingshan with gratitude. The words of these two brothers were considerate. Fourth, repeat those crucial matters that Luo Zhen had mentioned in detail. Let's think about it again. When Luo Henji saw that the atmosphere at the scene had eased up, he changed the topic. Again, Zhuoleng Shuang repeated it carefully. Head Dao warrior, look, why did this Luo Yang destroy the subduing soul stone tablet for no reason? What power did Luo Yang have to destroy the subduing soul stone tablet? Luo Henji had already uncovered the crux of the problem. Suddenly, Shakyamuni Chongguang said, "Dao warriors, there is a butler here that works at the Sea of Bamboo courtyard. On the day of the incident, he was not at the Sea of Bamboo courtyard. He had escaped a disaster. He said that before Luo Yang went to the 9 refined mysterious wind valley, he had met someone." The expression of the 4 Dao warriors changed at the same time. "Who?" "It's a local tyrant from the River Gate State City. His name is Zhou Yuding and he is known as Landlord Zhuo. He has a son called Zhuo Shao who is a core disciple. This time, he also met with a mishap at the Wolf Ivory Peak. Who else has this information?" Vividly, Luo Henji felt that this matter was most likely related to that Landlord Zhuo. One of the disciples guarding the entrance to the mountain stood up. "Dao warrior, when that Landlord Zhuo came, he had talked with me. At that time, he had brought 6 subordinate. It was me who reported to Elder Luo Yang. This person was the disciple surnamed Tu that had stopped Landlord Zhuo's group. By the way, Dao warrior, the night before Elder Luo Yang had left, he had invited Landlord Zhuo to a feast. And at that time, it seemed that some accidents had occurred. It seemed that spiritual beasts had barged in. Elder Luo Yang's subordinates had chased after them. That person from before reported again. Landlord Zwa, investigate this landlord Zwa for me. Luo Tongtian said while gnashing his teeth. I want all of his information, including who he had contacted before his departure, and any strange movements he had made. When the heavenly Luo Daoist sect wanted to investigate a matter thoroughly, their efficiency was impressive. Inside the Divine Brilliance Prefecture, the heavenly Luo Daoist sect held unquestionable authority. As soon as the order had been passed down, people from the branch at the River Gate State City immediately carried out a comprehensive investigation. Soon, the information had been passed to them. Before landlords had left the city, 2 young people had come to deliver gifts. Those 2 young people had left, and it seemed that landlords had also left for a while. He had only returned that night. However, I did not see those 2 young people again. I just received information from a restaurant in the market. A group of people had asked the waiter about landlords' personality and hobbies. The local bamboo stone gang of the River Gate State City had said that they had bothered that young man who had asked about landlord Zwa. That young man had a good mind and seemed to be familiar with the tricks of the Jianghu. The information had not only gathered from the River Gate State City. The initially muddled situation had also become clearer and formed a clear path. The mysterious young man, landlord Zwa, Luo Yang, 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley. Instantly, the entire network had become clear. As soon as this network had become clear, much of the content had also become rich. Luo Henji mumbled. It seems that from beginning to end, this was a premeditated action against us. Besides, the other party had predicted that we would be defenseless and had come prepared. This person's methods are terrifying. After taking so many detours, each of his steps was watertight. He had a meticulous mind and great courage. Tian Mingshan also commented. The expression on Luo Tongtian's face had become even worse. Luo Henji pointed to the network diagram they had analyzed and said suspiciously, Up to this point, I only have one question. How did this person know that the heavenly Luo Daoist sect has a subduing soul stone tablet? How did he know that this subduing soul stone tablet is the lifeline of the heavenly Luo Daoist sect? The crux of the entire matter was here. All the questions had stopped here. Luo Tongtian's expression had turned extremely unsightly. Vividly, he seemed to have thought of something. However, deep inside his heart, he was resisting this thought. However, the more he resisted, the more this thought tormented him and kept surging up. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that this was the case. Head Dao warrior, what's wrong? Luo Henji observed his expression and vividly guessed that perhaps the head Dao warrior already knew something. Luo Tongtian smashed one of the stone blocks with a heavy punch. Instantly, that stone block had turned into a pile of powder and shattered into pieces. Luo Tongtian gritted his teeth and spat out these 3 words with extreme unwillingness. He spoke each word with a pause as if he wanted to chew these 3 words into pieces. Qin, Wu Shuang. As soon as he spoke these 3 words, everyone was dumbstruck. They looked at Luo Tongtian with an expression of disbelief. Apparently, they could not believe that Qin Wushuang had done all of this. Recommended Medicine Fair Lady, book number 1750173. She had transmigrated to become the eldest daughter of the royal merchant. However, her father did not love her and her mother did not love her. She had to repay him with her body after saving his life? Why don't you send something expensive and light as a token of appreciation? If you don't like it, you can just grab your dowry box and run away first. Chapter 555. When the words Qin Wushuang came out from Luo Tongtian's mouth, he had mixed feelings. Even if he forced himself to control his emotions, This series of unforeseen events had turned the name Qin Wushuang into a terrifying curse. Even Luo Tongtian, the patriarch of a sect, could not remain calm and collected due to the hatred that grew with each passing day. Head Dao warrior, that Qin Wushuang. Apparently, Tian Mingshan found it difficult to accept this reality. Luo Henji was also not without doubts as he asked. Head Dao warrior, that Qin Wushuang had nowhere to hide under the pursuit of the sect. How could he have the guts to come to the Divine Brilliance Prefecture? Everyone more or less had the same doubt. If a young man from the human countries had caused the heavenly Luo Daoist sect to be in such a sorry state, it would appear unbelievable. This was simply an attempt to subvert their understanding. In their eyes, the human countries were a place of exile and would not enter their eyes. Now, Luo Tongtian could not speak of his bitterness. He had started to sort out the situation at the Danxia prefecture. The crux of the matter lay with Lu Xianlu. Luo Yi, who had been called out, could not help but feel his heart twitch. He carefully walked out from the crowd and called out, "Head Dao warrior." At the capital city of the Danxia prefecture, what did Lu Xianlu give to that young man? Luo Yi said with a long face. Head Dao warrior, at that time, Lu Xianlu's aura was too strong and I did not dare to get close. I could not go in to see what they were doing. However, I heard Lu Xianlu berating that guy. It seemed that guy had asked Lu Xianlu to craft some spiritual talisman and did not have the money to pay. Luo Tongtian's expression turned abnormally ugly. Lu Xianlu, I didn't expect that you would cause trouble for me before your death. Luo Tongtian was not Luo Yi. He and Lu Xianlu were lifelong enemies. He knew Lu Xianlu's situation clearly. For sure, Lu Xianlu had berated that young man to deceive others. Luo Yi opened his mouth and did not dare to say anything as he quietly retreated. That young man must be Lu Xianlu. Lu Xianlu had been my enemy for my entire life. Only he would know all these secrets of the heavenly Luo Daoist sect. Only he could have guided that kid to the Divine Brilliance Prefecture. Perhaps Lu Xianlu had given him many good things and allowed that kid to have enough confidence to come to the heavenly Luo Daoist sect. Head Dao warrior, does this mean that the person who killed Luo Zhan and the other 3 elders in Chaoyang Town is Qin Wushuang and the others? Chaoyang Town is their breakthrough point. Luo Tongtian finally sorted out his thoughts and continued. After breaking through Chaoyang Town, they will definitely head straight for the Divine Brilliance Prefecture. I only hate that we all thought he would rush to the heavenly Emperor Qin clan to seek refuge. However, he had underestimated this kid's courage. I didn't expect him to have the guts to barge into the Divine Brilliance Manor. In this case, finding landlord Zuyuding, using his name to enter the Heavenly Sun Mountain and the Sea of Bamboo Courtyard was all planned by this kid. This is too terrifying. Is this Qin Wushuang really a monster? Head Dao warrior, most likely, the entire Xianyuan mound is laughing at us, right? A kid in his early 20s from the human countries had caused our heavenly Luo Daoist sect to be in such a sorry state. A surge of murderous intent shot out from Luo Tongtian's eyes. Up to this point, we have no way to turn back. Do you think we can let this matter go? Killing Luo Ting, destroying the mountain gate, any of these grudges were extraordinary shame and humiliation. Especially after the mountain gate had been destroyed, if the heavenly Luo Daoist sect still did not care, then they would not need to stay in the Xianyuan mound. However, Luo Henji said, "Everyone, I still have one question. I do not underestimate that Zuyuding. However, Elder Luo Yang is a person with a strong personality and a desire to win. Even if he was defeated by Qin Wushuang and got ambushed by Qin Wushuang, he should not have betrayed the heavenly Luo Daoist sect. Why is it that from Landlord Zua to Elder Luo Yang, everyone seems to be working for that kid wholeheartedly?" Luo Tongtian said with a cold sneer. Lu Xianlu is full of tricks. For sure, he must have invented some kind of poison to confuse the mind. Or else, how could Luo Yang be instigated by a foreign kid? I am afraid that's the case. Luo Henji gave a long sigh. Everyone fixed their gaze on Luo Tongtian. Now they had sorted out all the clues and were close to the truth. The most crucial part was what to do next. After all, people like Shakyamuni Jin-su who advocated for peace were in the minority. Additionally, since the matter had developed to this extent, Shakyamuni Jin-su also felt that it would be impossible to make peace with Qin Wushuang. After all, the 10,000 years of foundation of the heavenly Luo Taoist sect had almost been destroyed overnight. If they were to rebuild it, they did not know when they would be able to return to their former glory. Everyone, you also heard Jin-su's words a moment ago. To prevent you from saying that I did not listen to your advice, now, I will give you a chance to speak your mind. Say everything you want to say in your heart. As for the future of the heavenly Luo Taoist sect, each of you are qualified and obligated to give advice. It was rare for Luo Tongtian to speak such magnanimous words. He controlled all his emotions and spoke with a gentle tone. Everyone hesitated. Clearly, they did not understand the intentions of head Dao warrior Luo Tongtian. They did not know if he was being sarcastic. Luo Henji said with a bitter smile, "Head Dao warrior, I think you should be the one to make the decision. My decision does not conflict with your suggestions. Second, why don't you go first?" Luo Henji held a superior position in the heavenly Luo Taoist sect. He was one of the few people who could sit on equal footing with Luo Tongtian in most situations. Immediately, he nodded. "Then I will say a few words. Since the matter has reached this stage, I do not wish to speak any discouraging words, nor do I wish to speak any courteous words. I only want to say that although this disaster is disastrous, there is the so-called saying of fortune within misfortune. It's not like there are no opportunities to profit from misfortune." Immediately, these words attracted everyone's attention. Profit from misfortune? Luo Tongtian also forced a smile. "Second, where is the opportunity, tell us?" Head Dao warrior, look. The lifeline of the heavenly Sun Mountain has been completely destroyed. I don't know how long it will take to rebuild it. Those collapsed mountain ranges will not be able to stand up again. And since the spiritual ley lines have been destroyed, it's still unknown how much value it would be to rebuild this place. Second, could it be that you think we should abandon this foundation? Luo Henji said with a smile. If there is a good choice, why not? A fervent light flashed across Luo Tongtian's eyes. Suddenly, he remembered something. You are talking about the Heavenly Emperor Mountain? Yes, the Heavenly Emperor Mountain. Luo Henji said sternly. If the head Dao warrior can enter the Supreme Dao stage, we might be qualified to challenge that Heavenly Emperor Mountain. Now, in the Xian Yuan Mound, the strength between the second-tier powerhouses is about the same. Although we've lost a lot of core disciples and a portion of our elders this time, we've lost a lot of core disciples. However, the number of our elite warriors did not decrease. Currently, the second-tier powerhouses do not have any elite warriors of the Supreme Dao. If the head Dao warrior can enter the ranks of the Supreme Dao elite warriors, we will immediately become a first-tier powerhouse. In the Xian Yuan Mound, there are only 12 first-tier powerhouses. Besides the Heavenly Emperor 8 gates, there are only 4 more. Luo Henji listed all the powerhouses of the Xian Yuan Mound in detail, as if he was familiar with his family's treasures. He continued to speak. If the head Dao warrior can enter the ranks of the Supreme Dao elite warriors, then we will be the 13th first-tier powerhouse of the Xian Yuan Mound. If the heavenly Luo Taoist sect can contribute enough power during the attack against the heavenly Emperor Qin clan, the Sound of Thunder sect and the heavenly Punishing Villa will surely support the heavenly Luo Taoist sect to move into the heavenly Emperor Mountain. We will replace the position of the heavenly Emperor Qin clan. The core of the problem had been pointed out. Everyone nodded thoughtfully. In fact, even without the factor of Qin Wushuang, the heavenly Luo Daoist sect had been scheming for this matter. They wanted to replace the position of the Heavenly Emperor Qin clan at the Heavenly Emperor Mountain. If they could enter the Heavenly Emperor Mountain, what could they not let go of with the foundation of the Heavenly Sun Mountain? Luo Tongtian's blood boiled from Luo Henji's words. He muttered to himself irresolutely. It seems, as Second said, the Heavenly Emperor Mountain is only a fortuitous opportunity. A blessing in disguise. Everyone, compared to the Heavenly Emperor Mountain and the Heavenly Sun Mountain, I don't need to explain how we should choose, right? If they could enter the Heavenly Emperor Mountain, what else could they say? The Heavenly Emperor 8 gates were the absolute core of the Xian Yuan Mound. Without a doubt, they were the top existences. Head Dao Warrior, if we can enter the Heavenly Emperor Mountain, I believe that the ancestors of the Heavenly Luo Daoist sect would feel greatly gratified. They would never blame us for destroying the foundation of the Heavenly Luo Daoist sect. Yes, this is a good opportunity to atone for our sins. Head Dao Warrior, in our current situation, it's meaningless to rebuild the Heavenly Sun Mountain. It's also impossible to accomplish. Let's take the risk. It's the so-called seeking riches and honor in the midst of danger. A trace of a joyful smile spilled from the corner of Luo Tongtian's mouth. It was apparent that the Heavenly Emperor Mountain was attractive enough to everyone. For this great ambition, even if everyone were to risk their lives, no one would shrink back. If they could truly enter the Heavenly Emperor Mountain, what sin would it be if they lost the foundation of their ancestors? It could only be said that people wanted to walk to higher places. However, Luo Henji remained calm as he said, Head Dao Warrior, entering the Heavenly Emperor Mountain is only one of our goals. The foundation of the Heavenly Sun Mountain must not be abandoned. Regardless, even if the Heavenly Sun Mountain was destroyed, it is still our territory. It will allow us to have a stronghold to advance and retreat. We must rebuild the Heavenly Sun Mountain. This way we can have a path to advance and retreat. Luo Tongtian deeply agreed. Second's words make sense. The key to rebuilding the Heavenly Sun Mountain lies in the subduing Devil Stone Tablet. Everyone, get ready, we will go to the 9 refined mysterious Wind Valley to see what's going on. Jin Su, Chong Guang, you two will continue to search inside the Heavenly Sun Mountain. Regardless, you must capture Luo Yang and bring him to justice. Shakyamuni Jin Su felt as if a giant stone had been put down from his heart. Hearing the tone of the head Dao warrior, he should not pursue the crime of his previous advice. For now, he would not need to worry about his personal safety. However, when he saw Luo Tongtian's high-spirited appearance, Shakyamuni Jin Su still felt incredibly uneasy. Regarding entering the Heavenly Emperor Mountain, even if everyone was full of hope, he still felt that this matter would not be as easy as everyone had imagined. Especially when becoming enemies with the Heavenly Emperor Qin clan, he always felt that it was not a wise choice. Regardless, a skinny camel was still bigger than a horse. Regardless of how the former Heavenly Emperor clan had fallen, how could they be offended by a second-rate powerhouse like them? However, he could not dampen their spirits at this moment. He also knew that his words would not receive everyone's approval. He could only carry out the tasks assigned to him silently. Haha, everyone is so supportive. We almost reached 600 vote. I had some matters to attend to this afternoon and felt that it was too late to start work. I didn't expect to reach 600 chapters. Please rest assured, even if I stay up until midnight tonight, I will deliver 6 chapters as promised. To be continued. If you want to know about the future, please log on to www.chidian.com. More chapters, support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 556. While the heavenly Luo Daoist sect was busy, Qin Wushuang had already spent 7 days and 7 nights in the depths of the ley lines. In these 7 days and 7 nights, Qin Wushuang did not calculate the time. He did not even know how much time had passed. He was completely immersed in this state of cultivation. In this training state there was some pressure and some enjoyment. However, the most important thing was the harvest. In these 7 days and 7 nights, Qin Wushuang had gained the equivalent of a year of hard work. Such a training environment deep in the source of the spiritual qi could not be found even if one held a lantern. While he was immersed in it, vividly, Qin Wushuang seemed to have sensed a trace of movement. This had awakened his spiritual perception from his training. He listened carefully and sensed it. He was not in a rush to spread out his spiritual perception. It was because he was worried that if he spread out his spiritual perception, it would trigger the perception from the outside and expose his body. As he listened carefully, Qin Wushuang could not help but feel nervous. Indeed, it was people of the heavenly Luo Daoist sect. Although Qin Wushuang was still deep in the ley lines, the sound from the outside had rolled in clearly following the movements of the spiritual qi. Qin Wushuang did not know that because the spiritual qi from this source of spiritual qi had rolled in the form of a whirlpool, he did not have to worry about the movements from the inside spreading to the surface. However, the sounds from the surface of the earth were transmitted here without the slightest bit of noise. Qin Wushuang listened attentively. He knew that this was not a child's play. Even though his strength had increased a lot. At this moment, before an elite warrior of the exquisite mysterious boundary stage, he did not have the capital to be arrogant. Thus, to him, it was extremely important to protect his whereabouts from being exposed. What a sin, what a sin! Luo Tongtian lamented bitterly. As he looked at the messy ruins before him, Luo Tongtian could not believe that this was the forbidden area of the heavenly Luo Daoist sect, the 9 refined mysterious wind valley. The subduing devil stone tablet had already broken into 4 pieces and was wrapped together with the ruins of the collapsed mountain range. From afar, it appeared to be a giant grave. Head Dao warrior, this subduing devil stone tablet was truly destroyed by an external force. Luo Henji felt extremely shocked. Looking at the damaged state of the subduing devil stone tablet, it was not done by ordinary power. Head Dao warrior, that human kid is truly this powerful? Tian Mingshan found it inconceivable and could not help but ask, if he had such power, he would not have needed to attack the subduing devil stone tablet. The implication was clear. Even the 4 Dao masters would find it difficult to resist the power of the divine path. In fact, the other Dao masters were also puzzled by this question. Indeed, as Tian Mingshan had said, with such offensive power, why bother to destroy the subduing devil stone tablet? He could have just killed the 4 Dao masters. Is he? Kill is? But, there are no buts. Luo Tongtian said with a determined tone, there is only one reason. That old bastard Lu Xianlu had given him a fortuitous opportunity that allowed him to use the power of the divine Tao in a short period of time. And for sure, this fortuitous opportunity is a one-time thing. It cannot be replicated. Or else, he could have waited for us here after destroying the subduing devil stone tablet. Luo Tongtian was the clearest about Lu Xianlu's matter. Hearing his explanation, everyone felt relieved. Inwardly, they did not feel good. A kid from the human countries had caused the heavenly Luo Daoist sect to this extent. Indeed, the sect had lost all faith. Especially after seeing this subduing devil stone tablet, it made them feel even more defeated. Head Dao warrior, can this stone tablet be erected again? Luo Tongtian looked at the stone tablet that had broken into 4 pieces with a bitter smile. If I had the power of the divine Tao, perhaps I could do it. Just like what the first Tao warrior had done, I could reconnect this stone tablet with the spiritual qi of the ley lines. With my current power, even if I could erect this stone tablet, I would not be able to restore the spiritual chi formation inside. If I could erect this stone tablet, all the destroyed mechanisms would restore the spiritual chi supply. It would not be difficult to rebuild it. Now, the most crucial problem is this stone tablet. When Luo Tongtian said here, he jumped up and dropped on the broken section of the stone tablet. When he probed with his spiritual perception, he realized that his spiritual perception had reached a certain depth and could not go any further. After a few attempts, he realized that as soon as he sent his spiritual perception and spiritual chi in, he would be swept away by a wave of spiritual chi like a whirlpool. Like a stone sinking into the sea, there was no response. When he saw Luo Tongtian frowning, Luo Henji also scuttled over and sent his spiritual perception in. The result was the same as before, there was no response. Head Dao warrior, this giant circle should be the source of the spiritual chi, right? When he sensed the powerful movements of the spiritual chi, Luo Henji was also shocked inwardly. Luo Tongtian said in a low voice, "It's here. Third, next, you will guard this place. You must protect the scene and not let anyone come close." Tian Mingshan answered, "Okay." Luo Tongtian gave a long sigh. "Everyone, don't be discouraged. One day, the heavenly Luo Daoist sect will regain its glory, or even become more glorious than before." We will not give up on the heavenly Sun Mountain, nor the heavenly Emperor Mountain. While they were talking, suddenly, there was a burst of noise from behind them. It was Shakyamuni Chongguang who had arrived with a group of people. "Head Dao warrior, we caught 2 of Luo Yang's subordinate. According to the disciples guarding the pass, these 2 are 2 of the 5 subordinates that Luo Yang had brought with him." Luo Tongtian was overjoyed. "Bring them up." These 2 were the guys that had entered the 9 refined mysterious wind valley with Qin Wushuang. These 2 guys were ordered by Qin Wushuang to guard the entrance of the valley. After the incident, they did not escape and hid inside the heavenly Sun Mountain. In the end, they were caught. Luo Tongtian looked at these 2 with a gloomy gaze. His expression was so ferocious as if he wanted to kill someone. "This is not your fault. As long as you speak the truth, I can spare your lives." Speaking such words that went against his conscience, Luo Tongtian had indeed concealed it with great difficulty. Those 2 disciples looked at Luo Tongtian with an indifferent expression. Their eyes were empty as if there was not a trace of spirit. Suddenly, these 2 opened their mouths and spat out a mouthful of phlegm directly at Luo Tongtian. Luo Tongtian never expected that these 2 would dare to offend their superiors. Under extreme anger, purple air erupted from his entire body as murderous intentions emerged. Luo Henji immediately advised, "Head Dao warrior, perhaps they are being controlled." Yes, from the looks of it, someone must be controlling their mind. Deep inside the ley lines, Qin Wushuang had grasped the situation outside clearly. Inwardly, he was slightly worried. However, up to this point, since Luo Tongtian already knew that it was him, Qin Wushuang, these 2 would not be able to sell any information. Luo Tongtian gave an eerie laugh. "You think I have no other way if you don't speak?" After he had finished speaking, he glared and shot out a wave of purple light from his forehead. The light split into 2 and penetrated the middle of these 2's foreheads. This was a divine skill similar to the soul scouring technique. However, it was far more tyrannical than the soul scouring technique. As soon as it entered the spiritual perception of these 2, Luo Tongtian instantly searched through their recent consciousness. He kept digging forward until Landlord Zhua of the Sea of Bamboo Courtyard came to visit. A trace of a strange smile emerged from the corner of Luo Tongtian's mouth as he withdrew his divine skill. With a miserable cry, those 2 had already been turned into ashes by Luo Tongtian. To traitors, regardless of whether they were active or passive, as long as they had betrayed the heavenly Luo Daoist sect, they were traitors. Luo Tongtian would never show mercy. Head Dao warrior, how is it? Luo Tongtian said coldly. Indeed, something had happened to that landlord Zhua, and indeed Luo Yang was being controlled. Only, as to who was controlling them, these two traitors did not leave any traces in their spiritual perception. However, when I was searching their spiritual perception vividly, it seemed that a wave of hidden spiritual perception was controlling them. It seemed to be guiding their spiritual perception at the same time. Guiding them at the same time? Luo Henji's expression changed as he looked around with alertness. The ground was filled with ruins. How could there be any signs of movement? Head Dao warrior, you mean, when you were searching their spiritual perception, someone was controlling their spiritual perception? Yes. Luo Tongtian said in a low voice. Did this person know that we were searching their spiritual perception, or was it a coincidence that he was communicating with them? Head Dao warrior, these two were only two little chess pieces. After using them, they were useless. If I were the other party, certainly I would not communicate with them. When Luo Henji said here, his expression became even more solemn. He started to look around suspiciously. Suddenly, he placed one hand next to his lips and whistled a few times. This whistling sound was extremely strange. In a moment, a long cry came from afar. This long cry sounded as if it was swallowing the wind and clouds. In a moment, a giant eagle with a small figure, but with a majestic appearance and silver feathers spread its wings and dived down. The heavenly punishing hawk? Luo Tongtian asked. Luo Henji nodded. Head Dao warrior, I had begged the heavenly punishing villa for a long time to borrow this heavenly punishing hawk. Unfortunately, I came back too late. As he spoke, Luo Henji whispered a few words to the heavenly punishing hawk in beast language. The heavenly punishing hawk had an arrogant attitude. When it saw Luo Tongtian, it only nodded casually. Inwardly, Luo Tongtian was overjoyed. Initially, he had decided to borrow this heavenly punishing hawk from the heavenly punishing villa out of anger after the death of Luo Zhan. He had borrowed it to capture Qin Wushuang. Now, hearing Luo Henji say that this was the heavenly punishing hawk, of course, he was overjoyed. For your information, although this heavenly punishing hawk was not a spiritual beast of the supreme Tao, it possessed the bloodline of an ancient spiritual beast. It was enough to make the heavenly Luo Daoist sect feel deep veneration for it. Most importantly, this heavenly punishing hawk possessed an unparalleled tracking ability. Such ability had almost reached the point of defying the natural order. Luo Henji had called for the heavenly punishing hawk because he had heard a trace of mystery from the words of the head Dao warrior. He felt that perhaps this enemy was hiding nearby. They could not sense it for the time being. However, Luo Henji trusted the ability of the heavenly punishing hawk greatly. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chidian.com, support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 557. Luo Henji was also quite knowledgeable about the beast language. His muttering was to instruct the heavenly punishing hawk to search carefully and explain all the details. The heavenly punishing hawk only responded to Luo Henji with a snort. This was a kind of arrogant attitude, but Luo Henji did not dare to be disrespectful. Even if it was just a flat-feathered bird, he still did not dare to offend it. After all, this was the treasure that the heavenly punishing villa borrowed to guard the mountain. Not to mention that the heavenly punishing hawk's strength was not inferior to theirs. Just the name of the heavenly punishing villa alone was enough for them to be courteous. There were very few people who understood the beast language. Even if they did not know much. Thus, they did not know what Luo Henji was talking about. However, from Luo Henji's expression, they could guess a little. They were all very vigilant as they looked around, as if they were afraid that Qin Wushuang would suddenly jump out from the dark. They did not understand, but Qin Wushuang heard it clearly. His understanding of the beast language was even more than Luo Henji's. Hearing this, he immediately felt that something was wrong. This heavenly punishing hawk is the treasure of the heavenly punishing villa? From Luo Henji's tone, it should be a super expert in tracking. Thinking about this, Qin Wushuang became even more cautious. He sealed all of his aura and did not reveal any clues. He only pricked up his ears to listen to every movement outside. He had already decided that once the other party discovered him and began to break through the ground, he would immediately take the sky pilfering pill and break through to the profound void martial stage. Only then could he summon a spirit beast of the exquisite mysterious boundary stage. After the heavenly punishing hawk finished listening to Luo Henji's instructions, it began to circle around the stone tablet within a few 100 feet radius. At first, its speed was not fast, but as it circled around, its speed became faster and faster. In the end, it was like a whirlwind spinning around at high speed. Suddenly, the heavenly punishing hawk's body stopped and expanded the search area. Expanding the scope of the search would naturally take a lot more time. The heavenly punishing hawk sometimes walked on the ground, sometimes flew up to the sky, and sometimes flew to the middle of the stone tablet. After a while, the heavenly punishing hawk's mood seemed to become anxious. Obviously, it had also encountered some unknown things. This kind of anxious mood made it seem very irritable. In the eyes of Luo Tongtian and the rest, this situation made them somewhat uncertain. He wondered what the heavenly punishing hawk had encountered. Everyone looked at Luo Henji with their eyes. Obviously, they wanted him to ask for advice. Luo Henji braced himself and asked in beast language, "Xin Ing, what happened?" The heavenly punishing hawk said in beast language, "Before you, there were 3 auras that stayed here for a long time. There are a few other presences that only stayed for a short while. However, their presence is similar to yours. They should be scouting disciples of the heavenly Luo Daoist sect." Luo Henji hurriedly nodded and said, "Yes, we once sent people to investigate." The heavenly punishing hawk continued, "Of the 3 auras, one is very obvious. The other 2 auras didn't stay for very long, and they all left in the same direction. As for the remaining aura, I couldn't find the path he took to leave. I'm sure that the owner of one of the auras hasn't left yet, but I searched everywhere, but I couldn't sense where this person was hiding." Luo Henji's expression was solemn as he translated the beast language for everyone. Everyone's expression changed as they looked at Luo Tongtian. Head Dao warrior this second asked him, "Can he be sure whether the owner of that aura is dead or alive? Perhaps that Qin Wushuang was directly swallowed by the power of this place when he destroyed the subduing devil stone tablet." Luo Henji followed Luo Tongtian's instructions and asked again. The heavenly punishing hawk denied flatly, "It's impossible for it to be a dead person. If it's a dead person, the aura would have disappeared quickly. This aura has a vigorous life force, and it was active a moment ago. There are signs of spiritual perception movements." Luo Henji's expression changed drastically as he quickly translated. Instantly, Luo Tongtian's expression changed drastically as he shouted, "Seal off the scene immediately." Tian Mingshan and Zhua Lungshuang immediately led people to surround the surrounding dozens of miles and set up an inescapable net. Deep inside the ley lines, Qin Wushuang also groaned inwardly when he heard the words of this heavenly punishing hawk, such a powerful feathered beast. "Head Dao warrior, it seems that the spiritual perception movement you sensed a moment ago was not a coincidence. It truly exists. That guy is really nearby." Luo Henji turned his head and said to the heavenly punishing hawk, "Divine hawk, search again. Since this guy's aura is still here, with your strength, you can definitely find him." The heavenly punishing hawk snorted and said coldly, "No need to search, I know where he is. Qin Wushuang's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that this heavenly punishing hawk had already found him? Without even thinking about it, he grabbed the sky pilfering pill and swallowed it. After swallowing it, Qin Wushuang did not dare to refine it. Because at this moment, as long as he slightly used his spiritual power, the heavenly punishing hawk might be able to lock onto him. Therefore, until the last moment, he decided not to refine the sky pilfering pill, nor did he forcefully pursue the void interpretation stage. This was because he felt that in the depths of the earth vein where the spiritual energy was dense, he could better consolidate his void transformation stage and lay down an even more solid foundation. He wanted to reach the profound void realm as soon as he refined the sky pilfering pill. Otherwise, the side effects of forcefully leveling up would definitely catch him unprepared. Therefore, he decided to wait a little longer. As long as he was given 1 more month, he felt that it would be enough to consolidate his transformation void realm to the extreme and naturally advance to the profound void realm. However, in a month's time, Qin Wushuang was not optimistic at all. With the current situation, he felt that he would not be able to hold on for a month. Perhaps even a day would be difficult. However, in the current situation, he could not act rashly. He was worried that if he slightly used his spiritual power, it would alert the heavenly punishing hawk and lock onto his position. Now, by making the heavenly punishing hawk suspicious, he could at least delay some time. Hearing the heavenly punishing hawk's words, Luo Henji was both surprised and happy. He hurriedly asked what was going on. The heavenly punishing hawk pointed below the subduing devil stone tablet. Right below. Luo Henji was shocked. Below? Yes, below. The heavenly punishing hawk was very certain, but I am unable to lock onto his exact position. However, I am certain that he is definitely underground. Luo Henji was anxious and asked, if he is underground, then the range is wide, and the heavenly punishing hawk could move at any time. Luo Henji also thought himself clever. Initially, he wanted to communicate with his spiritual perception. However, considering that he was speaking the beast language, the other party would not understand. Thus, he did not use his spiritual perception. He turned to Luo Tongtian and used his spiritual perception to communicate with them. When Luo Tongtian heard these words, he felt it was outrageous. He also sent his spiritual perception. Second, are the words of this heavenly punishing hawk reliable? It's not like you don't know this place. It is the source of spiritual qi for the heavenly Luo Taoist sect. It is the place with the strongest defenses. One cannot even fly here, not to mention traveling underground. Head Tao warrior, the heavenly punishing hawk is the authority in this area. Luo Tongtian nodded. Okay, then I will try and see if I can break through the surface. He made a hand gesture and everyone retreated far away to give Luo Tongtian some space. Luo Tongtian grabbed with his hand and a giant broadsword appeared in his hand. Suddenly, his body congealed into a ball of dazzling light and merged with that giant broadsword. Clang! A clear and powerful sound pierced through the sky. The ear-piercing vibration merged with a wave of cold light and slashed onto the ruins. Boom! The violent collision instantly shattered the ball of light congealed by Luo Tongtian's body. Following this rebounding power, Luo Tongtian's body also rolled a dozen times in the air. He felt the blood in his entire body roiling. It was indescribably uncomfortable, and he almost vomited. Too powerful. These were the only words in Luo Tongtian's head. In the air, he shook his head with a bitter smile and put away the broadsword. When he dropped to the ground, he finally stabilized his roiling blood. Head Tao warrior, this. Luo Henji and the others also surrounded him and looked at the ruins with a dazed expression. They could not believe that these ruins were this sturdy. A moment ago, The attack from the head Tao warrior had carried a domineering aura that could swallow the heavens and earth. The ferocious temperament had made them unable to breathe despite being so far away. Unexpectedly, under such a powerful attack, it only stirred up countless stone fragments and a rain of lime. It did not break through the surface. Luo Tongtian said with a bitter smile, "It's useless. Without the power of the Supreme Tao, it's impossible to break through the surface." However, it seems that the source of the spiritual qi was not damaged. Or else the surface would not be this sturdy. "This way, this place can be repaired?" Luo Henji asked. "We must wait until another elite warrior of the Supreme Tao appears in the heavenly Luo Taoist sect." Luo Tongtian frowned and looked at the ruins with a dazed expression. He mumbled to himself, "Since the surface is this sturdy, then how did Qin Wushuang enter the underground? It's impossible for him to travel to the depths of the ley lines from other places. The surface is already this sturdy, the deeper he goes, the sturdier it becomes. It's impossible to approach from underground." Luo Tongtian could not solve this puzzle. Luo Henji said with a bitter smile, "Could it be that he got swept down when he was breaking the subduing Devil Stone tablet? A moment ago, I used my spiritual perception and spiritual qi to investigate and felt a powerful whirlpool. Perhaps he got swept down by that whirlpool, it's not certain. If he got swept down, how could this kid still be alive after all these days?" Luo Tongtian still could not understand after much thought. There were always unexplainable mysteries surrounding this Qin Wushuang. From beginning to end, this kid from the human countries seemed to be filled with mystery and unimaginable mysteries. Suddenly, the heavenly punishing hawk said with a cold sneer, "It's useless for you guys to daydream here. To find this person, you must borrow a divine weapon. Only a divine weapon can break through the surface." "Divine weapon?" Luo Tongtian and Luo Henji exchanged a glance as their hearts thumped. Pushing 2 fat books, the kind with a lot of words. The Rebirth of the Sword God, Book Number 1706-101. The Soul Sword Land had lost the Sword God Wutian, but gained another exceptional elite warrior, Hai Tian. Azure Badge's newest and most stable book is 1452838. If you want to know what's to come, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.